Chapter 1299. In the dense forest of the hidden dragon wonderland. That's impossible. In a dense forest about 1,000 miles away from the Trial Valley, Shang Lin, who was hiding in a tree hole, muttered to himself in disbelief. The rank 1, grade 1 absolute beginning ginseng, which is said to be able to instantly become a martial venerable, is not only unable to help me break through to become a martial venerable, but it also did not increase my cultivation at all. That's not right. Could it be that I, Shang Lin, am too inexperienced and mistook an ordinary ginseng for an absolute beginning ginseng? After asking himself, Shang Lin became more and more convinced of his speculation. What he had was not the rank 1, grade 1 absolute beginning ginseng, which was said to be able to instantly become a martial venerable. It was just an ordinary ginseng. After losing the opportunity to break through to the martial venerable realm with the help of the rank 1, grade 1 absolute beginning ginseng, Shang Lin's face instantly turned gloomy. Now, the time for the mystery realm to close was getting closer and closer. If he could not use the heaven-defying opportunity in the hidden dragon wonderland to achieve a complete transformation of his cultivation and strength, there were only two paths in front of him. Either he directly abandoned the broken bridge and stayed in the hidden dragon wonderland forever, or he could use the broken bridge to leave the hidden dragon wonderland and be judged by Emperor Qin. However, the final outcome of these two paths was likely to be death. Shang Lin stood up and left the tree hole. Looking up at the depths of the mystery realm, Shang Lin's gloomy face was gradually replaced by a ferocious expression. Since I'm going to die either way, I might as well take a risk. Maybe there's a heaven-defying opportunity in the depths of the mystery realm that can change my fate. Since he had made up his mind, Shang Lin was not the kind of person who would drag his feet. After readjusting his depressed mood, he was about to use his body movement technique to leave the dense forest when suddenly, 4 people who were talking and laughing walked towards him. Qin Lingfei, Yusiki, Ting Yunjie, Wu Jingjun. Looking at the 4 people who were walking towards him, Shang Lin's face instantly turned gloomy. In the past, he was able to calmly face them and even decide the life and death of Qin Lingfei and the others because of the horn magic weapon that could control the mutated beasts with the bloodline of the divine dragon in the mystery realm. However, the horn magic tool had been shattered by a higher-grade horn magic tool, and had lost its ability to control strange beasts. At this moment, not to mention Ting Yunjie, who had the highest cultivation and strength, even Yusiki, who had the lowest strength, could easily kill him. Shang Lin. After seeing Shang Lin suddenly appear in front of him, Ting Yunjie was stunned for a moment, while Qin Lingfei and Yusiki were filled with killing intent. On the other hand, Wu Jingjun activated his bloodthirsty physique to the limit and pounced forward like a god of death. Looks like I can only use my final trump card. Looking at Wu Jingjun, who was charging at him like a god of death, Shang Lin gnashed his teeth and took out a fist-sized, pitch-black ball from his storage ring. Junior brother Wu, quickly dodge it. That's a rank 3 first-grade black saliva ball that can severely injure a martial saint. When he saw the black ball that Shang Lin took out, Ting Yunjie, who was also familiar with this kind of self-exploding magic tool, quickly reminded him loudly. Facing the black saliva ball that Shang Lin had already thrown out, Wu Jingjun knew that he could not dodge it at all. However, he did not panic at all. He took out a detoxification pill and directly activated the blood shield formed by his bloodthirsty physique after consuming it. Then, he performed the complete version of the devouring technique. He planned to use the devouring technique to reduce the power of the black saliva ball's self-explosion and finally use the blood shield to resist the power of the explosion. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening roar, Wu Jingjun was completely enveloped by the black smoke formed by the self-explosion of the black saliva ball. Jingjun! Jingjun! Junior brother Wu. Seeing Wu Jingjun being directly hit by the black saliva ball, Qin Lingfei, Yusiki and Ting Yunjie shouted with grief and indignation. This was because they were all aware of the brotherhood between Wu Jingjun and Yu Haoran. If Yu Haoran knew that something had happened to Wu Jingjun, he would be furious. They were worried that Yu Haoran would misunderstand that they did not save him, which was the real reason for Wu Jingjun's accident. However, when Wu Jingjun suddenly rushed out of the black smoke unscathed and directly captured the stunned Shang Lin, Qin Lingfei and the others secretly breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, they were also very interested in the means that he could resist the power of the black saliva ball that could seriously injure a peerless martial venerable powerhouse. Sister-in-law, elder sister, senior brother needs to know the specific whereabouts of Qin Tianyi through this person and who the real mastermind is. Carrying the unconscious Shang Lin, Wu Jingjun said calmly. I now need to take him to the valley to look for senior brother, so you guys continue to train in this dense forest for the time being. Jingjun, I'll go with you. Hearing that Wu Jingjun was going to look for Yu Haoran, Qin Lingfei hurriedly requested this. Facing Qin Lingfei's suggestion, Wu Jingjun suddenly did not know how to answer. Junior brother did not allow him to accompany him into the valley, which meant that there was great danger in the valley. If he brought Qin Lingfei into the valley, not only would he go against senior brother's wishes, but he might also cause Qin Lingfei to be in danger. Don't look for me. Just when Wu Jingjun did not know how to refuse Qin Lingfei's suggestion, Yu Haoran's voice suddenly came into his ears. Seeing Yu Haoran rushing over quickly, Wu Jingjun let out a long sigh of relief and hurriedly called out, Senior brother. Nodding with a smile, Yu Haoran looked at the unconscious Shang Lin in his hand, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Ling Fei, elder sister, senior brother Ting, how was your harvest? Yu Haoran did not use the soul-searching secret technique to check Shang Lin's memory for the time being. He forced a smile and asked. Walking to Yu Haoran's side, Qin Lingfei reached out and hugged his arm, saying happily, although we didn't obtain many treasures, our strength increased significantly after killing exotic beasts of different grades and types. Facing Yu Haoran's gaze, Yusiki and Ting Yunjie nodded and replied at the same time, same. After taking Shang Lin from Wu Jingjun's hands, Yu Haoran suggested with a smile, since everyone's harvest is not bad, and there are less than 2 days before the secret realm closes, let's return to the edge of the secret realm for the time being and consolidate our gains from this trial. Qin Lingfei, Yusiki, and Wu Jingjun did not have any objections to that. Only Ting Yunjie could not help but frown. When one was in seclusion in the secret realm, as long as the broken bridge's remains were by their side, no matter where they were in the secret realm, the broken bridge's remains could safely send them out of the secret realm. There was no need to deliberately return to the edge of the secret realm. Furthermore, there were still 2 days before the secret realm closed. They had enough time to continue exploring the secret realm and continue looking for opportunities to increase their cultivation and strength. Yu Haoran's sudden decision to return to the edge of the secret realm made him feel that something was wrong. At the same time, he suspected that Yu Haoran might have discovered some major secret in the valley. Therefore, when the 4 flood dragons returned to their original forms, he took the initiative to invite them. Prince Consort, why don't we ride the green flood dragon together? Sure. Yu Haoran also noticed Ting Yunjie's frown earlier. He knew that Ting Yunjie was puzzled by his sudden decision to end the adventure and wanted to have a private talk with him. The shocking discovery in the depths of the valley, combined with Thaling's shocking speculation, made him decide to reveal the secret hidden in the Hidden Dragon Wonderland so that everyone in the Tianxian continent would be alerted. Senior brother Ting, the valley I entered earlier was actually a trial ground. It was mainly used to test the cultivation and strength of the young disciples. Chapter 1300. In the Hidden Dragon Wonderland. Half an hour ago, after throwing away the 3 white bones in his hand, Yu Haoran continued to advance into the depths of the valley. Perhaps it was because of the chaotic murderous aura, or perhaps it was because of the eerie white bones, but there were no demon beasts or strange beasts in the entire valley. There was not even a single strand of grass. If that was the case, he did not need to stop advancing. In less than 40 minutes, he arrived at the deepest part of the valley. Shocking! When he saw the scene in the deepest part of the valley, he was completely stunned. Not only were the 9 huge coffins floating in the air, but there was also a sealed peak 9th grade martial exalted realm demonic beast under each coffin. At the same time, there was a special tube-shaped instrument connecting the coffins to the strange beast. The instrument was forcefully extracting the demonic power, soul power, flesh, and life force from the strange beasts and continuously transferring them into the coffins. The strange scene made Thaling suddenly realize something. He immediately used the possession technique and used his physical body to forcefully open one of the coffins. He saw the God Clan youth, who had just broken through to the martial monarch level and still maintained a vigorous life force in the coffin. From the aura of the God Clan youth, Yuhauran finally understood what it meant to be favored by the heavens and earth. He was a true monstrous genius. Although the God Clan youth had just broken through to the martial monarch level, if they really fought, he could only defeat him but not kill him. Based on the strange scene and the memories of Huang Ao's remnant consciousness, Thaling finally deduced that not only were there members of the ancient God Clan living in the hidden dragon wonderland, but there was a shocking number of them. At the same time, according to the ancient God Clan's way of doing things, they would definitely not hide in the land of gods forever. Once their strength had accumulated to a certain extent, they would definitely open the passage to the secret realm and once again descend and rule the entire Tianxian continent. It was because of Thaling's shocking speculation that Yuhauran finally decided to reveal the secret of the land of gods and the God Clan to Ting Yunjie. In the coffin that had been forcibly opened, the Protoss youth was gradually showing signs of waking up. This was the main reason why he had decisively left the valley and decided to bring Qin Lingfei and the others back to the edge of the secret realm immediately. Prince Consort, the secret of the god race descending and ruling the profound sky continent from the ancient era, as well as the divine refining land, is too shocking. I'm afraid that even my family's ancestor would not believe it, let alone other people. After nearly 20 minutes, when the green-horned dragon was about to reach the edge of the secret realm, Ting Yunjie finally managed to calm down the shock in his heart. Then, he shook his head and smiled bitterly. Actually, even I am doubting the authenticity of the secret you just revealed. Senior Apprentice Brother Ting, the reason why I revealed the secrets of the land of gods and the ancient God Clan to you is not because I expect the world to completely believe me. I only hope that I can borrow the influence of your heavenly martial sect to spread the news, so as to alert some people and make some defensive measures in advance. In the face of Ting Yunjie's doubts, Yuhauran replied nonchalantly. If that's the case, it can be considered as a small effort that I should do for all living things. I just want to have a clear conscience. Prince Consort, don't worry. I will tell the ancestor the secret you just revealed word for word. Ting Yunjie could not help but tremble slightly as he could sense Yuhauran's indifference when facing his doubts and the arrival of the god race. He hurriedly promised with a solemn expression. Yuhauran did not say anything about that. He would do his best and leave the rest to fate. He was alone and weak. He did not have the ability to deal with the threat of the god race's arrival, nor did he have the obligation to save the people. The only thing he could do was to reveal the news. As for when the god race descended on the profound sky continent in the future, if he had the ability to resist the god race's powerhouses, then he would do his best to guard the land in the southern region. If he did not have the ability to resist the god race's powerhouses, then he would ride the prince's mansion and leave the southern region directly. Then, he would look for a paradise that could avoid the god race's rule. When the green dragon slowly landed on the ground, Yuhauran carried Shang Lin and jumped onto the grass. Then, he directly used a secret technique to search Shang Lin's memory. Wu Jingjun, who also jumped down from the Grey Dragon, stood directly next to Shang Lin and was vigilant of the surrounding environment. After nearly 5 minutes of soul-searching, Yu Haoran withdrew his left hand from Shang Lin's forehead. A hint of surprise appeared on his face. This was because not only did he successfully find Qin Tianyi's hiding place in Xianyang City in Shang Lin's memory, but he also confirmed that the real mastermind was the Green Hill Fox clan through the conversation between Shang Lin and Qin Tianyi. More importantly, he accidentally discovered Shang Lin's opportunity in the Hidden Dragon Wonderland at the last stage of soul-searching. It was the rank 1 grade Genesis Ginseng. Shang Lin did not break through the realm of martial honor, nor did his cultivation increase at all. This caused Shang Lin to mistakenly think that he only obtained an ordinary ginseng. However, to Yu Haoran, who was about to break through to Pill Emperor in alchemy, he knew that Shang Lin did not accidentally obtain an ordinary ginseng. It was the Genesis ginseng that could instantly become a martial honor. At the same time, he could also vaguely guess the reason why Shang Lin discovered the Genesis ginseng. Thaling immediately set up the strongest trap formation. I want to obtain a top-grade spiritual medicine treasure from Shang Lin. Pretending to be thinking about something, Yu Haoran hurriedly informed Thaling in his mind. After hearing Yu Haoran's order, Thaling did not ask about the origin of the top-grade spiritual medicine treasure. Instead, he immediately used the 18 formation flags used to set up the Sun, Moon, and Stars formation. He quickly set up a trap formation that could temporarily trap a peak 9th grade martial honor. After the formation was successfully set up, Yu Haoran took a deep breath and directly pushed Shang Lin's right arm away. Then, he bent the 5 fingers of his left hand and grabbed the joint of Shang Lin's arm. However, just as the 5 fingers touched Shang Lin's arm, a strong and dazzling purple light suddenly exploded from the joint of Shang Lin's arm. Following the explosion of the purple light, a white-bearded little old man about 10 centimeters tall wearing a purple robe escaped from the joint of Shang Lin's arm. He then turned into a bolt of lightning and planned to escape. Bang! However, just as he rushed out less than 10 meters, he was forcefully bounced back by the trap formation set up by Thaling. Yu Haoran also took the opportunity to grab the white-bearded little old man who was bounced back. Seeing the white-bearded little old man struggling in Yu Haoran's hand, Qin Lingfei asked curiously, "Prince Consort, what is this?" Chapter 1301. In the Hidden Dragon Fairyland. Without answering Qin Lingfei's question, Yu Haoran and Thaling used the same sealing technique at the same time and quickly sealed the struggling white-bearded old man. After the white-bearded old man was completely sealed, Thaling waved his hand and removed the trapping formation. "This is a Stage 1, Grade 1 primordial ginseng," Yu Haoran said in surprise to Qin Lingfei, who rushed to his side. Back then, at the core of the Mirror Lake Forest, there was a Stage 1 primordial ginseng that had just advanced to Stage 1. However, limited by his own cultivation and strength, as well as the special environment of the Mirror Lake Forest, he could only give up helplessly in the end. Because of this, he had been brooding in his heart. Now, when he decided to give up the trial in the Hidden Dragon Fairyland and wait for the secret realm to seclude himself, he unexpectedly obtained a Stage 1, Grade 1 primordial ginseng. It could make up for his regret when he gave up, and at the same time, it could further increase the success rate of breaking through to the Elixir Emperor realm. Prince Consort, could it be that this is the primordial profound ginseng that can ignore the cultivation base and bottleneck of one's realm and immediately become a peerless martial venerable? Ting Yunjie asked excitedly after hearing Yu Haoran's reply. That's right, it's the Stage 1 primordial ginseng that can help experts in the martial sage realm to directly break through to the martial venerable realm. Yu Haoran nodded and confirmed. This. After hearing Yu Haoran's confirmation, Ting Yunjie was pleasantly surprised, but there was a hint of struggle on his face. Senior brother Ting, in fact, with your talent and potential, it's not difficult to directly break through to the martial venerable realm. You don't need the help of the stage 1 primordial ginseng at all. Seeing the struggle and hesitation on Ting Yunjie's face, Yu Haoran could not help but frown and remind him. Since Yu Haoran had already pointed out his thoughts, Ting Yunjie, who was no longer struggling in his heart, explained with a hint of sadness. Prince Consort Yunjie actually has a half-sister called Ting Jiashue. She's a top monstrous genius whose talent and comprehension ability far surpass mine. However, an accident 3 years ago not only caused some problems to her mind, but also caused her cultivation to forever remain at the early first grade of the martial saint realm, so, at this point, Ting Yunjie looked directly at the Grand Beginning's mysterious ginseng and found it difficult to voice his true request. After hearing Ting Yunjie's explanation, Yu Haoran could not help but fall into deep thought. According to his friendship with Ting Yunjie, it was not impossible for him to directly give the Grand Beginning profound ginseng to him. However, for the Emperor Essence embryonic pill that he was going to refine next, he needed to use the 9 drops of the Grand Beginning profound ginseng to replace one of the supplementary medicinal herbs to increase the success rate of the final pill refinement. As for the absolute beginning root ginseng that had lost the 9 drops of ginseng liquid, the effect of helping Ting Jiashue break through to the martial honorable realm would be weakened by at least 40%. It would not be able to help Ting Jiashue successfully break through to the martial honorable realm. Prince Consort Yunjie was rude. Seeing that Yu Haoran was deep in thought, Ting Yunjie thought that he was unwilling to give the Grand Beginning profound ginseng and could not help but feel disappointed. However, when he thought of the heaven-defying effect of the Grand Beginning profound ginseng and its uncontrollable strong temptation to alchemists, he could understand Yu Haoran's decision. Therefore, although he was disappointed, he did not resent Yu Haoran because of this. Senior brother Ting, don't misunderstand. It's not that I feel sorry for the Grand Beginning profound ginseng, and it's not that I don't want to help your sister. It's just that the Grand Beginning profound ginseng can help me. Seeing the disappointment flash across Ting Yunjie's face, Yu Haoran hurriedly explained and truthfully stated the importance of the Grand Beginning profound ginseng to him. Prince Consort, you don't have to care about Yunjie's request at all. Anyway, my sister has already broken through to the martial saint realm and has a long lifespan of 1,000 years. There will definitely be a solution in the future. Hearing that the Grand Beginning profound ginseng's liquid could actually help Yu Haoran break through to the Pill Emperor realm, Ting Yunjie blamed himself and regretted his wishful thinking just now. At the same time, he hurriedly thought of a way to comfort him. He did not want Yu Haoran to be unable to successfully become an Pill Emperor because of his selfishness. If that happened, he would be a sinner of the Emperor Qin Kingdom and the Heavenly Martial Sect. Senior brother Ting, how about this? Ting Yunjie's understanding made Yu Haoran feel very comfortable. At the same time, he did not want to affect their relationship because of a mere spiritual herb, so he directly gave him a guarantee. After the Southern Region Hidden Dragon ranking competition ends, I will personally make a trip to the Heavenly Martial Sect and see if there is a way to solve Senior Sister Jiashue's problem. If I can't solve Senior Sister Jiashue's problem with my alchemy skills, then I will think of a way to restore the vitality of the Grand Beginning profound ginseng and let her use it to break through to the martial venerable realm. She will then enjoy a lifespan of 5,000 years. Junior brother Yu, thank you. Ting Yunjie bowed gratefully in the face of Yu Haoran's guarantee. In response, Yu Haoran waved his hand to indicate that he did not have to be polite. Then, he made a move to put away the Grand Beginning profound ginseng. Young human powerhouse, please wait a moment. However, at this moment, a pleading voice suddenly sounded in his ears. After hearing the pleading voice, everyone hurriedly turned their heads to look. They were pleasantly surprised to find that 100 meters away, there was also a purple-robed, white-bearded old man who looked exactly like the grand beginning profound ginseng. Ting Yunjie was so excited that he immediately mobilized all his strength, planning to capture the white-bearded old man alive. However, Yu Haoran pressed down on his shoulder in time. Looking at the white-bearded old man 100 meters away, Yu Haoran asked without any surprise, "You've finally appeared." As an alchemist who was about to break through to an alchemy emperor, how could Yu Haoran not see that the grand beginning profound ginseng that he had sealed earlier was just a clone? It only had 1/3 of the main body's medicinal power. However, he was even more clear that if it was not about to encounter a fatal crisis, the grand beginning profound ginseng, as a spirit cultivator, would definitely not use a clone technique to separate its main body from a clone that only had 1/3 of its strength. This was because this would have a great impact on its main body. If it was serious, it might cause its intelligence to deteriorate, and its grade would fall back to rank 2. Combined with the God Clan young man's absorption of the essence of the beast at the peak of rank 9 venerable realm in the valley and Thaling's explanation of the God Clan powerhouse's style of doing things, Yu Haoran guessed that the grand beginning profound ginseng, which had a mature intelligence, probably wanted to use its identity as an outsider in Xianglin to escape the restrictions of the secret realm with its clone. After its main body self-destructed, it would have a chance to escape. Now that its clone had been sealed by him, it had lost its hope of escaping. Its main body would definitely come out to mediate, hoping to obtain a chance to escape from the secret realm. "Young human, what conditions do you want in order to let my clone live?" Chapter 1302. In the Hidden Dragon Immortal Realm. As a top spiritual herb among spirit cultivators, the white-bearded old man could feel the unique aura of an alchemist expert from Yu Haoran's body. He was clear about Yu Haoran's understanding of top spiritual herbs and the heaven-defying support ability of his clone to an alchemist expert like him. Therefore, the white-bearded old man was already mentally prepared for Yu Haoran to ask for an exorbitant price. Primordial profound ginseng, have you already given up on escaping from the land of God refinement? Yu Haoran did not ask for an exorbitant price. Instead, he smiled and asked the question that caused the white-bearded old man's expression to change. "Young human, what do you know?" the white-bearded old man asked nervously. "In the valley 10,000 miles away, there are 9 floating coffins and 9 beasts at the peak of the 9th level of the venerable realm. I believe you know what I'm talking about." Seeing the white-bearded old man's nervous expression, Yu Haoran's eyes flashed with a bright light as he smiled and said a few key points. When he heard Yu Haoran mention a few key points, the white-bearded old man couldn't help but take a few steps back. Then, he asked with an even more panicked expression, "Young human, did you disturb the experts sleeping in the coffins?" A guy who was about to wake up had his soul destroyed by me and his body completely turned into nothingness. Although he didn't know why the primordial profound ginseng was so flustered, Yu Haoran chose to tell the truth in the end. At that time, when Thaling opened one of the coffins, the God Clan youth, who had just broken through to the martial venerable realm, showed signs of waking up from his deep sleep. At the same time, according to the speed at which the tube-shaped special artifact accelerated the extraction of the essence of the beast at the peak of the 9th level of the venerable realm, Thaling deduced that it was unlikely for the God Clan youth to fall into a deep sleep again. In order to prevent the awakening of the God Clan youth and attract more powerful God Clan experts, Thaling directly used his law martial skill and fire of the God of Tools to destroy the other party's corpse. Oh no! Hearing that Yu Haoran had directly killed one of the God Clan youth in the coffin, the white-bearded old man's face turned pale and his voice trembled as he spoke. "Young human, you've caused a disaster. A disaster is about to befall the entire land of God refinement. Primordial profound ginseng, don't panic. I've already used a special formation to completely seal the other 8 coffins. I can ensure that no one will discover the abnormality in the valley for the next 3 days, even the true almighty experts in the depths of the secret realm. Yuharan first comforted the panicked absolute beginning ginseng. Then, his tone changed and he reminded it with some schadenfreude. But after 3 days, what kind of disaster will happen in the entire divine refining realm? That is not something I can care about. After hearing Yuharan's consolation and reminder, the white-bearded old man couldn't help but fall into deep thought. He was thinking about what he should do in order for the other party to bring him out of the land of God refinement and ensure that he wouldn't be harmed. After pondering for nearly 10 minutes, the white-bearded little old man raised his head and said to Yuharan after a hint of ruthlessness flashed across his face, "Young human, as long as you promise not to harm my life, I promise to give you a drop of ginseng liquid every year. 1 drop of ginseng liquid a month." Facing the conditions given by the primordial profound ginseng, Yuharan shook his head and rejected it, and even made his own request. No way. Facing Yuharan's request, the primordial profound ginseng immediately shook its head and retorted, "Young human, a drop of ginseng liquid a month will harm my foundation, causing my grade to drop to the 9th rank of the 2nd step. Therefore, a drop of ginseng liquid every half a year at most. 1 drop of ginseng liquid every 3 months. This is my bottom line. Otherwise, I will directly refine your clone. This way, I will be able to obtain at least 20 to 30 drops of ginseng liquid, which is enough for me to use to refine pills." Shaking his head to reject the second condition proposed by the primordial profound ginseng, Yuharan threatened with a gloomy expression, and then gave the other party a tempting look. "If you can agree to this condition, I guarantee that I will let you leave alone in 100 years. "Really?" the primordial profound ginseng asked in surprise. "If you don't believe me, then I'll swear on the rules of the heavenly Tao. How about it?" Yuharan gave himself a guarantee of honesty. "All right. Although a drop of ginseng liquid every 3 months would affect the advancement of one's grade, it could at least ensure that one's life was preserved. Moreover, 100 years was just a short period of sleep for a spirit cultivator, so the primordial profound ginseng nodded in agreement. "Come." Yuharan stretched out his hand and gestured to the primordial profound ginseng. Since they had reached an agreement, the white-bearded old man chose to believe in the other party's character. When he jumped onto Yuharan's palm, he immediately returned to his original form. He sent the primordial profound ginseng into the victor with his mind. Then, he let the Thaling use the victor's time ability and the spiritual vein to obtain as much spiritual liquid as possible so that he could help him refine the embryonic emperor pill in a short period of time. After sending the primordial profound ginseng into the victor, Yuharan said to Ting Yunjie with a smile, "Senior brother Ting, within 5 years, senior sister Joshua will be able to break through to the martial venerable realm. Prince Consort, I can't thank you enough. In the future, if you need Yunjie's help, just say the word." The spiritual liquid was still the energy essence of the primordial profound ginseng. It was also the key to helping a martial saint break through to the martial venerable realm. 1 drop of spiritual liquid every 3 months. In 5 years, it was enough to accumulate the ginseng liquid needed to help his sister break through to the martial venerable realm. This made Ting Yunjie wild with joy. How could he not be grateful to Yuharan for his help? Waving his hand, Yuharan indicated that Ting Yunjie did not need to be polite. He found an open space with soft grass and gestured for Qin Lingfei and Yusiki to come to his side. In the following period of time, he guided Qin Lingfei and Yusiki in their cultivation while continuing to cultivate his origin energy, divine soul, and physical body. Time passed by minute by minute. There were less than 3 hours before the God refining land closed. The disciples of the family who had entered the secret realm to train began to return. Judging from their high spirits and the powerful auras they emitted, it was clear that they had gained a lot from their training in the secret realm this time. Although the prince consort and the princess were of noble status and Yu Haoran was a peak alchemy grandmaster, the disciples who had returned to the edge of the secret realm only greeted him briefly before automatically staying far away. They did not have the slightest intention of fawning over him. Yu Haoran calmly glanced at the disciples of the family, especially the disciples of the imperial family. A look of understanding flashed across his eyes, and he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. There was less than half an hour before the god refining land closed. Fan Qingfang and the others, who had entered the secret realm to train together, returned to the edge of the secret realm in a sorry state. At the same time, only 13 of the original 27 people were left. The remaining people were also riddled with injuries. It seemed that they had not been very lucky in the secret realm. Chapter 1303. In the Hidden Dragon Wonderland. There were less than 3 minutes before the Land of God refinement closed. Yu Haoran stood up and took out the remains of the broken bridge. He waited quietly. Qin Lingfei and Yusiki also took out the remains of the broken bridge and waited with him for the secret realm to close. Roar! Screech! After waiting for less than 3 minutes, a deafening roar of a dragon and a phoenix came from the Land of God refinement. A divine dragon that was 99 meters long and a divine phoenix that was 99 meters tall appeared at the edge of the secret realm. Following the appearance of the divine dragon and the divine phoenix, the broken bridge that was taken out immediately emitted a gentle light. It looked like it was about to float out of the secret realm. Let's go. Yu Haoran turned his head and reminded Qin Lingfei and the others. Then, he jumped onto the remains of the broken bridge and allowed it to bring him out of the Land of God refinement. However, just as the broken bridge was about to float to the barrier of the secret realm, an unimaginably terrifying aura exploded from the depths of the secret realm. Following the explosion of the terrifying aura, a giant palm that covered the sky slammed towards Yu Haoran at lightning speed. At the same time, a thunderous roar came from the depths of the secret realm. Sinner, how dare you devour a god? I will punish you on behalf of the heavens and take your life. Looking at the giant palm that was slamming towards him, the deafening voice of judgment echoed in his ears. Yu Haoran took out the white rod with a serious expression. He planned to use his own strength to fight against the giant palm. Yu Haoran, don't be nervous. The broken bridge will help you block the attack. However, just as he was about to use the secret technique of the witch's bloodline and unleash all his strength, the thawing in his mind suddenly reminded him. Furthermore, with the rules of the secret realm contained in the broken bridge, it can easily block the attack of a powerful expert. Are you sure? Yu Haoran asked in disbelief. However, before Thawing could explain further, the broken bridge wreckage automatically emitted a purple light to form a protective shield. Yu Haoran immediately felt relieved. Then, he mustered up his strength and mocked the depths of the secret realm. You're just a bunch of cowardly rats who are afraid of death. How dare you call yourselves gods? I feel ashamed for you. Sinner, you're courting death. Upon hearing Yu Haoran's mockery, the speed of the giant palm's attack instantly increased by several times. An angry shout came from the depths of the secret realm. Boom! The giant palm that suddenly accelerated its attack landed heavily on the purple energy shield formed by the remains of the broken bridge. A deafening roar resounded throughout the entire secret realm. Accompanied by a deafening explosion, not only was the purple energy barrier not broken, it even borrowed the force of the giant palm to speed up and pass through the barrier of the secret realm, completely leaving the Land of God refinement. However, just as the broken bridge wreckage passed through the barrier of the secret realm, Yu Haoran left behind words that made the almighty experts of the god race, Emperor Wu, even more furious. Rat, you keep repeating these 2 sentences. Are you uneducated? Don't you know how to scold people? Do you need me to teach you in the future? Just as all the broken bridge wreckage left the secret realm, an incomparably handsome middle-aged man with an extraordinary temperament suddenly appeared at the edge of the secret realm. However, he had 3 pairs of pure white wings on his back. If this handsome middle-aged man appeared in the secular world, it would definitely cause countless young girls to scream and go crazy. Looking at the barrier of the secret realm that was slowly recovering to its original state, the handsome middle-aged man cursed with an ashen face. "Damn sinner, just you wait. When my god race army descends upon the profound sky continent, I will skin you alive and pull out your tendons. I will let you know the consequences of humiliating a god." Afraid that they would fall into the heaven-trapping ropes formation again, after the broken bridge wreckage left the land of god refinement, Yuhauran and Thaling stayed obediently. Neither of them risked using their divine sense. As for Ting Yunjie, who was behind, he raised his head and looked at Yuhauran in front of him. In his mind, he recalled the angry roar of the almighty experts of Emperor Wu in the depths of the secret realm. He gradually believed that the hidden dragon fairyland was actually the land of god refinement, and that the god race army might descend and rule the profound sky continent in the future. Thinking about the records of the ancient gods and demons in the Sex Pavilion, Ting Yunjie knew that he had to tell the secret of the land of god refinement to the ancestor so that he could prepare for the possible disaster in the future. Emperor Qin and Zixian, who had arrived at the forbidden grounds ahead of time, raised their heads and looked at the white clouds in front of them. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. As the first broken bridge wreckage rushed out of the white clouds, Emperor Qin and Zixian were surprised to find that the first person to leave the secret realm was actually Yuhauran. According to Yuhauran's cultivation and strength, he should have been training in the depths of the secret realm and should be the last person to leave the secret realm. "Your Majesty!" Yuhauran, who quickly flew away from the broken bridge wreckage, slowly landed in front of Emperor Qin and Zixian. However, he only greeted Emperor Qin. Regarding this, Zixian's face instantly darkened. However, she did not find trouble with Yuhauran. Instead, she looked at the white clouds again and waited for the disciples of the royal family to return from their training. "Prince Consort, how was the training in the hidden dragon fairyland?" Emperor Qin pretended not to see Zixian's gloomy face and asked with a smile. "It's a long story." Shaking his head, Yuhauran briefly explained what happened in the secret realm, as well as the secret of the land of gods and the god race's army. After that, he turned his head and called out to Qin Lingfei, who was being interrogated by Zixian. They flew away from the forbidden grounds of the royal palace and directly returned to the prince's mansion. Forcefully suppressing the shock in his heart about the land of gods and the arrival of the god race's army, Emperor Qin looked at Fan Qingfang and the others who had left the broken bridge wreckage. His eyes were filled with intense killing intent. Zixian looked at the 20 or so elite disciples of the royal family in front of her. Her eyes were also filled with disappointment and anger. They looked at each other. After Zixian saw the intense killing intent in Emperor Qin's eyes, a trace of hesitation flashed through her heart. However, after seeing how Shang Lin and the others dared to kill Qin Lingfei and Yuhauran in the secret realm, she thought about the true intentions of the families behind them. Thinking about the cold-bloodedness and ruthlessness of the royal family's elite disciples, the hesitation in Zixian's eyes was immediately replaced by determination. Taking out the complete version of the Emperor Realm low-grade sword from her dantian and handed it to Emperor Qin, Zixian warned with a frosty voice. "Your Majesty, you have to be careful of the tiger's counterattack. If you take action, you must eliminate the source of the problem. You must not continue to leave behind hidden dangers." "Don't worry, Empress Dowager. I know what to do." Holding the Emperor Realm low-grade sword tightly, Emperor Qin nodded. After that, he did not encourage the disciples who had returned from the training like in previous years. Instead, he directly flew away from the forbidden grounds. "Brother Qingfang, something is wrong with His Majesty." Seeing Emperor Qin leave the forbidden grounds of the royal palace extremely abnormally, Li Chunhao had a worried expression and reminded him. "Brother Qinghao, don't worry." His Majesty definitely won't dare to do anything to us. After leaving the secret realm, Fan Qingfang, who had regained the spirit of an elite disciple of his family, smiled and comforted him. However, when he saw Chief Steward Jiang appear in the Forbidden Grounds with thousands of martial emperors and martial saints, his confident expression was immediately replaced by fear. Chapter 1304. Xianying City, Imperial Palace. Accompanied by 4 peak 9th grade martial saints of the Imperial Guard, Chief Steward Jiang walked before everyone with 2 decrees in his hands. Raising his head and looking at the 23 elite disciples of the imperial family, Manager Jiang opened one of the imperial edicts with a serious expression and read it out with a voice as sharp as a sword. By the will of the heavens, the Emperor decrees that Qin Linghao, Qin Fengxing, Qin Linduan ignored the imperial family's kindness and ignored the imperial family's kinship, as if they were heartless people. From today onwards, the imperial family's disciples will no longer receive any special treatment, and all their gains in the Hidden Dragon Immortal Realm will be confiscated. They will also be grounded for 3 years. Thank you for your grace. After hearing Manager Jiang read out the first imperial edicts, other than Zixuan who already knew about it, everyone present was dumbfounded. Manager Jiang, what is the meaning of this? Qin Linghao, whose status was second only to the imperial prince, clenched his fists and asked with a gloomy expression. Looking coldly at Qin Linghao, Steward Jiang ordered the commander of the imperial guards behind him. Carry out the emperor's orders. One of the 9th grade martial saint imperial guards turned his head and nodded at the 23 7th grade martial saint subordinate. Then, the 23 7th grade martial saint imperial guards walked in front of the imperial family's disciples and started to confiscate their storage artifact. How dare you! This prince's noble body is not something a damned servant like you can touch. The only son of the imperial family's imperial prince shouted angrily and took out his life weapon, planning to kill the imperial guards who dared to confiscate his storage artifacts. However, at this moment, a purple sword chi flashed and the only son of the imperial prince's head fell to the ground, his soul extinguished. Then, Zixuan looked coldly at the 22 imperial family's disciples and warned with a frosty voice. Whoever dares to disobey the emperor's orders, I will destroy his soul. Even the only son of the imperial prince was killed. The other imperial family's disciples who wanted to resist immediately handed over their storage artifacts obediently and were sent back to their own residences by the imperial guards. By the will of the heavens, the emperor decrees that Fan Qingfang and Li Chenhao have betrayed the emperor's trust and disregarded the law. They have betrayed the emperor's grace by commanding strange beasts to launch a sneak attack on the emperor's son-in-law and the princess in the Hidden Dragon Wonderland. They have committed a heinous crime that cannot be tolerated by the law. Have the imperial guards immediately lock him up in the death row and await trial. Thank you for your kindness. After the elite members of the royal family were escorted out of the forbidden area of the palace, Director Jiang continued to read the second imperial edict. Fan Qingfang and the others had already guessed the contents of the second imperial edict through the Qin emperor's thunderous methods against the elite members of the imperial family. It was definitely targeted at them, the people who had tried to kill the prince consort and the princess. However, when they heard the contents of the imperial edict, their faces instantly turned pale. Even though they wanted to use their life-saving trump cards, Fan Qingfang and the others finally gave up on resisting when they saw Zi Xian's murderous gaze. They allowed the imperial guards to seal their cultivations before they were sent to the death row prison. In the prince's mansion, after bringing Qin Lingfei, Yu Siki, and Wu Jingjun back to the prince's mansion, Yu Haoran directly flew to the White Tiger statue and used his divine sense to observe Emperor Qin's actions. When he saw Emperor Qin holding a complete version of the Emperor Realm low-grade sword, he knew that he had completely cut off the relationship between father and son and intended to kill Qin Tianyi, who had fallen into the evil path. Unfortunately, When Emperor Qin arrived at a dilapidated courtyard in the South City, he found that Qin Tianyi had already left in advance. In the end, he had no choice but to leave the South City and go straight to the prince's mansion. Jumping down from the white tiger statue, Yu Haoran ordered Qin Lingfei, take the 4 flood dragons and help Father quell the riots that may be discovered in Xianyang City. Nodding, Qin Lingfei directly summoned the 4 flood dragons that were desperately absorbing the Xian Huangqi in the mansion and then took them to meet Emperor Qin, who was quickly rushing over. After seeing the 4 flood dragons that had reached the middle stage of 9th grade revered martial artist and hearing Qin Lingfei relay Yu Haoran's instructions, Emperor Qin immediately brought Qin Lingfei back to the palace in surprise. Then, he began to massacre the great Emperor Qin's second hidden danger, which was the corruption of power by the aristocratic families and the royal family. Sister Xingjun, there are less than 5 days before the start of the Southern Region Hidden Dragon ranking battle. During this time, you two stay in the mansion and do your best to digest and consolidate the gains from the secret territory. Then, use the pills and martial skills I gave you to increase your cultivation and strength. After Qin Lingfei left, Yu Haoran ordered Yu Siki and Wu Xingjun. Nodding, Wu Xingjun directly turned and returned to his courtyard. Xiaoran, what about you? Seeing that Yu Haoran seemed to want to leave, Yu Siki quickly asked. Sister, after a simple rest, I will immediately rush to the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce in the Right Ox city of Shuangnia Mountain and cooperate with the Chamber of Commerce's president and great elder to organize an earth-shattering auction. Looking up in the direction of the central region, Yu Haoran said with anticipation, Okay, be careful. It was just to cooperate with the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce to organize the auction, not to go on an adventure, so Yu Siki assured. Elder sister, I got it. Yu Haoran nodded his head and walked towards his courtyard. Level 3, Level 9 Supreme Transformation Pill, Level 2, Level 1 Life Essence Pill, Level 2, Level 1 Emperor Essence Pill, a mid-level Monarch Realm Sword, a high-level Monarch Realm Saber, a low-level Monarch Realm Sword, and a low-level Monarch Realm Saber. Looking at the pill bottles and magic tools placed in front of him, Yu Haoran frowned slightly, and a look of contemplation flashed in his eyes. Yu Haoran, any of the 7 treasures can be auctioned at a sky-high price. Is there anything you are not satisfied with? Seeing Yu Haoran frowning slightly, Thaling asked with some puzzlement. Pagoda Spirit, after we got married, when I was discussing the auction items with Bian Xingrui and Wu Xiqing, I erased the 8 items prepared by Earthly Paradise, leaving only the Sea God's Pearl that came from the Southern Sea Dragon. In the face of Thaling's inquiry, Yu Haoran explained the reason for his frown just now. According to the principle of the top auction set by Bian Xingrui, no more, no less, 9 items should be prepared, so I need to take out a treasure that is not inferior to these pills and magic tools. This is very simple. After hearing Yu Haoran's explanation, Thaling replied with a smile. Yu Haoran, next, I will use the Victor to accelerate time to the maximum limit, and then with the rich spiritual qi in the level 5 spiritual vein, I can collect 2 to 3 drops of primordial ginseng liquid in a day. I think the value and effect of 3 drops of primordial ginseng liquid far surpasses that of a superior venerable realm magic tool. Thaling, 1 drop of ginseng liquid is enough. Thaling's proposal made Yu Haoran's eyes light up. Considering that he needed 9 drops of ginseng liquid to refine the Emperor Vitality Pill, and that Ting Jiaxue might need more ginseng liquid to break through the martial venerable realm, he finally decided to take out 1 drop of ginseng liquid as an auction item. Okay. In this regard, Thaling nodded in agreement. Taking out the level 2 lifespan elixir and Emperor Vitality Pill, as well as a magic tool of the Emperor realm, and harvesting a large number of spiritual veins was secondary. The most important thing was that he hoped that through this auction, he would completely draw out those peerless experts and powerful experts hiding in the dark. Therefore, being able to save 2 drops of ginseng liquid could be considered a break-even trade. Chapter 1305. Twin Bull Mountain, Right Ox City. Ever since Yu Haoran decided to auction the third order, first-grade Huazuan pill that he had personally refined through the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce more than a month ago, many experts from various sects and clans had appeared in Right Ox City, causing the inns in the city to become crowded. Fortunately, there were still many empty courtyards and lofts in Right Ox City, which could temporarily satisfy the conditions for the experts who had poured into the city. However, 9 days ago, the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce's President Wu Xiqing and Great Elder Bian Xingrui, as well as 4 peerless experts of the martial honor realm, suddenly arrived in Right Ox City and began to expand the auction house that had already been built. Many forces in the Tianxian continent gradually felt that something was not right. Subsequently, some of the deacons and staff of the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce spread the real reason for the expansion of the auction house. That was, Yu Haoran would not only take out the third order, first-grade Huazuan pill that he had personally refined, but also more top-notch pills and magic weapons as auction items. It was said that among the pills that Yu Haoran had taken out this time, there were third-order, first-grade life pills that could break through the limit of one's lifespan, supreme spirit pills that could greatly increase one's martial honor realm, and so on. Although the rumor was not very true, from the simultaneous arrival of the 2 giants of the heavenly world and the expansion of the auction house, it was likely that many rare treasures would appear in the auction that Yu Haoran and the heavenly world worked together to organize. Therefore, other than the Yushu Temple, 6 top sects, 11 first-rate sects, and more than 20 experts of the inherited families had all arrived in Twin Bull City, preparing to participate in this grand auction. The arrival of the top experts and forces not only caused all the inns and courtyards in Right Ox City to be packed, even Left Ox City, which was a few thousand meters away, was overcrowded. Fortunately, everyone was here to participate in the auction, so they restrained their temper and anger, so there weren't too many conflicts. However, this calm and restrained atmosphere changed the day before the auction officially began. The reason was that a female disciple from the Lingxiao Pavilion had heard from Yu Haoran's direct disciple, Yun Xiang, that a few items would be auctioned this time. In an instant, Right Ox City was in complete chaos. First of all, some powerful rogue cultivators who lived in Left Ox City but kept a low profile began to forcibly drive away the experts of the first-rate sects and ordinary inherited families in order to seize an advantageous position. Secondly, the Yushu Temple, who had originally looked down on the auction house. After obtaining a portion of the auction items, the master of the underground palace personally led 32 Third Tribulation Quasi-Emperor Realm experts and 4 peerless experts of martial honor realm personally came to Right Ox City and occupied 3 inns that were close to the Chamber of Commerce. In the end, a group of mysterious people with terrifying power began to drive away everyone except the 7 top sects and families of inheritance in Right Ox City. It was because of these 3 reasons that the atmosphere in Right Ox City, which had been peaceful for tens of thousands of years, became tense and bloody incidents occurred frequently. In the Yiyuan Pavilion in the backyard of the Heavenly World Shop, Wu Xiqing and Bian Xingrui sat on the stone chairs in the Wind Pavilion with solemn faces. Yun Xiang looked at them cautiously, and a trace of annoyance and anger flashed in her eyes. She did not expect that her best friend, who had been on good terms with her since they were young, would not only use their friendship to trick her, but also spread the news afterward, causing the Chamber of Commerce to be in a passive position. "Great Elder, do you think we should postpone the auction?" Wu Xiqing took a deep breath and began to seek Bian Xingrui's opinion. "No." Faced with Wu Xiqing's request, Lian Xingrui shook his head and refused without hesitation. "President, the auction this time has already alarmed nearly 70% of the forces and experts in the Tianxian continent. If we postpone the auction, I'm afraid it will arouse the dissatisfaction and anger of most of the experts gathered in Twin Ox City. With the strength of the Celestial World Chamber of Commerce, we can't face the anger of so many experts. At this point, Bian Xingrui looked up in the direction of the Emperor Qin Kingdom, a trace of hesitation in his eyes. Moreover, the Emperor's son-in-law is willing to entrust so many rare treasures to us for auction because he believes in the strength and credibility of our Chamber of Commerce. We can't let the Emperor's son-in-law down. Great Elder, even if that's the case, now that even the Yushu Temple has appeared, I'm afraid it will lead to unpredictable turmoil. Although he nodded in agreement with Bian Xingrui's explanation, Wu Xiqing still wanted to postpone the auction. President, why don't we directly wake up the two Triple Tribulation Quasi-Emperor Wu realm consecrators who are asleep and let them come to intimidate the many forces in Rydok City? Bian Xingrui, frowning, asked cautiously. No. Without any consideration, Wu Xiqing shook his head and refused directly. Even if we have to give up this auction, we can't wake up the two consecrators before the end of the hidden genius list of the 5 regions. Seeing that Wu Xiqing's attitude was very firm, Bian Xingrui's eyes flashed a trace of disappointment. Then he continued to think about how to ensure that the auction would go on as usual. The arrival of the Master of the Underground Palace of the Yushu Temple is an honor for your Chamber of Commerce. It's already impolite of your President and Great Elder not to open the door to welcome him. Do you want the noble earthly venerable to stand at the door and wait for you to report? Just as Bian Xingrui was thinking about how to ensure that the auction would go on as usual, he suddenly heard a voice scolding the Chamber of Commerce's subordinates from outside the courtyard. Looking at each other, Bian Xingrui and Wu Xiqing both found the seriousness in each other's eyes. Since the Master of the Underground Palace of the Yushu Temple has come to visit in person, if we don't take the initiative to welcome him, it will give him an excuse to make trouble. Putting away the seriousness in his eyes, Wu Xiqing stood up and reminded them. All right. Although Bian Xingrui didn't want to take the initiative to welcome the earthly venerable, thinking of the tyranny and viciousness of the Yushu Temple, he could only nod and stand up helplessly. Then he followed Wu Xiqing to the front of the courtyard. Wu Xiqing greets the Master of the Underground Palace. After opening the courtyard door, Wu Xiqing immediately showed a humble smile and saluted. In the face of Wu Xiqing's humble greeting, a middle-aged man in his 40s, with a dignified appearance, a pair of cold eyes and 2 curved eyebrows, nodded his head with an indifferent expression. Then, under the guidance of a peerless martial venerable, he stepped into a Yuan pavilion, ignoring Bian Xingrui and Yun Xiang, who also saluted him. However, after seeing the peerless beauty of Yun Xiang, a young man behind the earthly venerable smiled slightly, and a different look flashed in his eyes. Chapter 1306. In Yuan Pavilion. Although the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce was not as powerful and influential as the Yushu Temple, it was still one of the top forces in the Tianxian continent. As the Great Elder in the Chamber of Commerce, who had the same power as the President, Bian Xingrui's status and power were not much lower than the Terrestrial Venerable. Therefore, in the face of the Terrestrial Venerable's obvious humiliating disregard, Bian Xingrui suddenly felt a trace of anger in his heart. Putting away the forced smile on his face and straightening his back, Bian Xingrui returned to the courtyard with a trace of arrogance. He ignored the Terrestrial Venerable and directly sat on the stone chair in the pavilion. Then he closed his eyes and pretended to be in deep thought. The Terrestrial Venerable ordered Wu Xiqing in an unquestionable tone as a murderous aura flashed through his cold eyes. He suddenly stopped walking toward the pavilion. 9 spiritual veins of upper 6th level in exchange for a 3rd level 9th level supreme Huashao elixir. 9 spiritual veins of lower 5th level in exchange for a 2nd level 1st level life elixir. After hearing the condescending order of the Terrestrial Venerable, Wu Xiqing also felt a trace of dissatisfaction in his heart. However, under the oppression of the terrestrial venerable's powerful aura, he did not dare to show a trace of dissatisfaction. He could only explain with a smile. Master of the underground palace, whether it is the 3rd level 9th level supreme Huashao elixir or the 2nd level 1st level life elixir, they are all the private collections of the Emperor Qin's son-in-law. The Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce has no right to decide the final ownership of the 2 elixirs. Moreover, according to our agreement with the son-in-law, he will only entrust the items to us before the auction officially starts. In the face of Wu Xiqing's excuse, the terrestrial venerable snorted unhappily. A trace of power gradually rose from his body. The terrifying aura gradually began to expand. Not only did it directly suppress Wu Xiqing, causing him to lower his head in fear, but it also did not let Bian Xingrui and Yun Xiang off. Yun Xiang, quickly leave Yiyuan Pavilion. Although the terrestrial venerable's strength was very strong, Bian Xingrui was not weak either. Moreover, the pride in his heart had been aroused, and the top-notch defensive treasures on him had allowed him to withstand the oppression of an earthly venerable. However, to Yun Xiang, who had just broken through to the martial ancestor realm, the terrifying aura of an earthly venerable rank cultivator continuously impacted her mind. Her face gradually turned pale, so he quickly reminded her in a soft voice. Under the envelopment of my earthly venerate's aura, even a great elder like you would not be able to leave easily, let alone a lowly martial ancestor servant. The earthly venerate spoke with the arrogance of an emperor in response to Bian Xingrui's reminder. You're the B***tch. Just as the earthly venerable finished his arrogant words, an angry curse was suddenly heard. Along with the curses, a blue figure tore through the oppressive aura and instantly appeared beside Yun Xiang. Soon after, a copper bell emitting a faint mysterious yellow gas helped her resist the terrifying pressure, and a 3rd step 9th grade 3 yang energy recovery pill was fed into her mouth. Just the injury caused by the aura's impact on her mind had required the use of a 3rd step 9th grade healing pill. After seeing the blue-clothed young man who had appeared beside Yun Xiang, a pained and envious look appeared in everyone's eyes. The master of the underground palace of the Yushu Temple, a peerless powerhouse at the peak of a 7th grade martial venerable, actually used his aura to oppress a little girl who had just broken through to the martial ancestor realm. Seeing that Yun Xiang's face had instantly regained its rosy color and her aura had calmed down, the blue-clothed young man let out a long sigh of relief. At the same time, he turned his head and pointed at the earthly venerable rank and cursed. Earthly venerable rank, you shameless bastard! Do you have any shame? No one would have thought that the blue-clothed young man who had suddenly appeared in the pavilion would curse the master of the Yushu Temple's underground palace, one of the top 7 sects in the Tianxian continent. Of course, this included the earthly venerable rank who had been directly insulted. After nearly 30 seconds, the earthly venerable rank finally reacted. His indifferent expression was instantly replaced by a ferocious expression. A terrifying aura that surpassed the might of the heavens made most of the people present kneel on the ground. This included the 2 3rd-grade martial venerable powerhouses who had followed him into Yiyuan Pavilion. You Haoran, you're courting death, the earthly venerable rank said through gritted teeth as he looked at Yu Haoran with blazing eyes. Earthly venerable rank, even if you're the master of the heavenly palace of the Yushu Temple, the heavenly venerable, you're not qualified to act arrogantly in front of me, Yu Haoran. So, go do what you need to do. Don't stay here and continue to make a fool of yourself. Yu Haoran waved his hand as if he was driving away a fly. Then, with the help of the Thaling in his mind, he easily dispelled the terrifying aura that was as oppressive as the might of the heavens. He retorted with even more arrogance than the earthly venerable rank. Yu Haoran, anyone who offends the Yushu Temple will only have one ending, and that is death. Yu Haoran easily dispelled his terrifying aura at its peak. The earthly venerable rank couldn't help but frown as he looked around. Suddenly, a strong sense of deadly vigilance emerged in his heart. Therefore, he didn't take the risk of making a move. Instead, he planned to use the prestige of the Yushu Temple to threaten Yu Haoran and make him obediently admit his mistakes. Tisk! In the face of the earthly venerable rank's threat, Yu Haoran's eyes were full of contempt and sarcasm. Earthly venerable rank, don't use the Yushu Temple to scare me. Others may fear the power of the Yushu Temple, but in the eyes of Yu Haoran, the Yushu Temple is nothing. In the face of the master of the Yushu Temple's underground palace, Yu Haoran's tough and arrogant attitude made Bian Xingrue's blood boil uncontrollably. It made the worship in Yunxiang's eyes even more intense. However, it also made Wu Xiqing, who was kneeling in submission, shake his head uncontrollably. A trace of hesitation flashed in his eyes as he wondered if he should continue to cooperate with Yu Haoran. Good, very good. In the face of Yu Haoran's tough counterattack, the earthly venerable rank sneered and said good twice. To everyone's surprise, he suddenly flung his sleeves and directly stepped out of Yuan Pavilion. Master, why did that old fellow swallow his anger and leave? Looking at the people who turned around and left Yuan Pavilion, Yunxiang asked with a puzzled expression. Yunxiang, be more respectful when you address the master of the underground palace. Hearing Yunxiang directly address the earthly venerable rank as an old fellow, Wu Xiqing, who had just stood up, immediately criticized her with a frosty expression. Glancing at Wu Xiqing with dissatisfaction, Yu Haoran did not stand up for Yunxiang to counter his criticism just now. Although Yunxiang was his disciple, she was also a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Moreover, he still needed the cooperation of Wu Xiqing and Bian Xingrue in order to use the 8 top-notch treasures that he had carefully prepared to achieve his goal of stirring up the situation in the Tianxian continent. However, no matter what, Yunxiang was still his eldest disciple. In the face of Wu Xiqing's completely unreasonable criticism, he needed to do something for her. Chapter 1307. In Yuan Pavilion, Yunxiang, my overly tough attitude made that old and disrespectful fellow mistakenly think that I have a powerful expert at the level of Emperor Wu protecting me, so he can only choose to tolerate me for the time being. After a slight pause, Yu Haoran deliberately raised his voice and continued shouting. Don't be fooled by how the people of the Yushu Temple usually act high and mighty, as if they're not afraid of anyone. In fact, they're exactly the same as ordinary forces and ordinary warriors. They're also a bunch of weaklings who bully the weak and fear the strong. The terrestrial venerable, who had just left Yuan Pavilion, heard Yu Haoran's deliberately raised voice and mocked him. His originally gloomy face seemed to be able to squeeze water out of it, and his hands in his sleeves clenched tightly. Qing Yu! The terrestrial venerable took a deep breath and suppressed the strong murderous intent that kept surging in his heart. He then turned his head and ordered a young man behind him. Master! Qing Yu cupped his fists and answered. Inform Bibian and ask him to take Yu Haoran's head at all costs after the auction is over. Yes, master. When Qing Yu saw that the earthly venerate was temporarily enduring because he did not want to be labeled as someone who bullied the weak, nor did he want to be criticized by the people of the world, Qing Yu immediately accepted the order excitedly. President Wu, Great Elder, I'm really sorry. The trial in the secret realm was delayed for a while, so I came a little late. Seeing that the terrestrial venerable could continue to tolerate his mockery, Yu Haoran couldn't help but admire his sinister scheming. After that, Yu Haoran directly turned around and apologized to Wu Xiqing and Bian Xingrue. You're too polite, Prince Consort. You're not late at all. After hurriedly comforting him with a smile, Bian Xingrue gestured for Yu Haoran to sit down. Wu Xiqing, on the other hand, was slightly angry and wanted to reprimand him, but he was directly interrupted by Bian Xingrue's words. Prince Consort, we have already set up the auction venue. The experts in charge of maintaining the auction venue have also been arranged. The only thing we lack now is an auctioneer in charge of the auction items. After Yu Haoran sat down on the stone chair, Bian Xingrui introduced him with a solemn expression. After all, the items you've prepared are too valuable. Even I don't have the confidence to be the auctioneer. President Wu, Great Elder, if you trust me, Yu Haoran, why don't you let me host the auction? The problem that Bian Xingrui was facing now was exactly what Yu Haoran had been looking forward to. Therefore, he went straight to the point with his request. Prince Consort, this is against the rules. Without even considering it, Wu Xiqing immediately shook his head and refused. No. However, Bian Xingrui gave a different opinion. President, actually, Prince Consort is the most suitable person for this position. Great Elder. Seeing Bian Xingrui overturn his decision twice in a row, Wu Xiqing immediately reminded him in a loud voice, displeased. President, don't be angry. Let this subordinate give you a detailed analysis. Ignoring Wu Xiqing's displeased reminder and not avoiding Yu Haoran's listening, Bian Xingrui explained in detail the familiarity and safety of the auction items, as well as the aspects that the Chamber of Commerce could avoid liability. Great Elder, this Wu has suddenly caught a cold and needs to return to the headquarters to recuperate. You will be fully in charge of this auction. Although Bian Xingrui's analysis was reasonable, when he thought about how nearly 70% of the Tianxian continent's forces and experts were gathered in Twin Bull City, Wu Xiqing simply didn't believe that this auction would be able to proceed smoothly. At the same time, Yu Haoran's disregard and Bian Xingrui's toughness made him quite unhappy, and at the same time, he couldn't help but be vigilant in his heart. Therefore, he now wanted to stay out of the matter and avoid the responsibility of mistakes in the auction. At the same time, he also wanted to take advantage of the opportunity after Bian Xingrui's failure to completely take over his position as the Great Elder, so as to avoid the situation of being overshadowed by his achievements in the future. Looking at Wu Xiqing, who didn't give him a chance to stay and turned to leave Yuan Pavilion directly, Bian Xingrui was stunned. Yu Haoran sneered, and Yunxiang muttered discontentedly in a low voice. Unambitious and short-sighted, Uncle Wu is no longer suitable to continue to be the president of the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce. Yunxiang, shut up. After hearing Yunxiang's whisper, Bian Xingrui, who came back to his senses, immediately rebuked her with a livid face. Then, when he got up to persuade Wu Xiqing to stay, he was stopped by Yu Haoran, who shook his head. Great Elder, President Wu has already left Twin Ox Mountain with 2 peerless martial venerables. His livid face was instantly replaced by gloominess, and Bian Xingrui finally couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Alas! After the long sigh, Bian Xingrui said to Yu Haoran with a bitter smile on his face, Prince Consort, I'm really sorry. In fact, the 4 peerless martial venerables were used to deter some people with ulterior motives, but now, shaking his head, Bian Xingrui smiled bitterly and didn't continue speaking. Great Elder, in the entire auction, you only need to arrange a dozen partners to guide the guests into the venue, and the appraiser in charge of the auction items for me. Leave the rest to me. After hearing Yu Haoran's explanation with a bitter smile, he immediately indicated with a smile. Will it work? Bian Xingrui asked worriedly. Great Elder, just wait for the Chamber of Commerce to use this auction to completely become the largest Chamber of Commerce in the Tianxian continent. As he stood up with a smile, Yu Haoran indicated for Yunxiang to bring him around the auction house to familiarize himself with the auction's procedures in advance. There were less than 5 hours before the auction started, and the largest restaurant in Right Ox City was already filled with guests. It was a hubbub of voices. At this moment, everyone was discussing the value of each item that was about to be auctioned, as well as the final price that could be reached. Brother Huang, the auction is about to begin. As a waiter of the Chamber of Commerce, shouldn't you be busy at the auction house? How come you have the leisure to come here and drink? In the hall on the first floor of the restaurant, a muscular middle-aged man carrying 2 jars of fine wine walked to a young man who occupied a table and asked with a laugh, "Brother Lin." Seeing the middle-aged man put the jars of wine on the table, the young man called Brother Huang hurriedly stood up and greeted him. "Brother Huang, tell me, how come you have the time to come here alone to drink?" Placing one of the jars of fine wine in front of the young man surnamed Huang, the muscular man surnamed Lin continued to ask with a smile. Shrugging his shoulders, the young man surnamed Huang poured a bowl of fine wine by himself. After drinking it in one gulp, a trace of resentment appeared in his eyes. "What else can I do? The auction doesn't need us, so I had nothing better to do, so I came here to drink." "Brother Huang, what's going on? The auction held by the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce didn't need his waiter to be in charge of it." The young man surnamed Huang's complaint immediately aroused the strong man surnamed Lin's interest. Chapter 1308. Right Ox City. After drinking the wine in his bowl, the young man surnamed Huang's face flushed with anger and alcohol as he angrily explained. "Brother Lin, our Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce only has a total of 9 rare treasures up for auction this time. 8 of them came from that you guy." After pouring himself a bowl of wine and drinking it in one go, the young man surnamed Huang continued to complain angrily. "I'm sure Brother Lin has heard of what kind of person that you guy is. He relied on the fact that the 8 auction items were all provided by him. Not only did he take over all the affairs of the auction, but he also personally presided over the entire auction process. And the result? Not only was the president angered to the point of leaving Twin Ox Mountain, but even the great elder became an errand boy. Brother Huang, could it be that your president and great elder have never thought of terminating their cooperation with you Howren?" Hearing the reckless complaints of the shop assistant surnamed Huang, the brawny man surnamed Lin asked with a frown. After all, the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce was one of the top forces in the Tianxian continent. They had the capital and confidence to refuse to cooperate with you Howren, even if they had to give up this auction. Of course they did. After pouring himself another bowl of wine, the young man surnamed Huang looked around vigilantly. When he saw that no one was paying attention to his conversation with the brawny man surnamed Lin, he said very softly, "However, that you guys seem to have taken out a heaven-defying pill that could help a martial honorable break through to Emperor Wu's realm. In the end, the great elder willingly became an errand boy. The president could only choose to leave Twin Ox Mountain out of sight and out of mind." Afraid that the sound of his gasp would disturb the young man surnamed Huang, the brawny man surnamed Lin hurriedly drank 3 bowls of wine before barely suppressing the shock in his heart. Then, he asked for confirmation in a similarly soft voice. "Brother Huang, what is the name of the pill that can help a martial honorable break through to Emperor Wu's realm?" Shaking his head, the young man surnamed Huang replied with an uninterested expression. "Who knows? When I was passing by Yuan Pavilion, I accidentally heard the president and that you guy talking about a pill. Brother Huang, I suddenly thought of a very important matter that I haven't dealt with yet. I'll take my leave first." Seeing that the youth surnamed Huang really didn't know the origin of the pill, the brawny man surnamed Lin immediately stood up and said apologetically, "Big brother Lin, you're busy. Little brother, I'm not going home until I'm drunk." The young man surnamed Huang didn't notice that Lin was in a hurry to leave. He continued to pour wine for himself. However, as he finished the wine in the bowl, a hint of pride flashed in his eyes. As Mr. Lin quickly left the hall, many people left the restaurant's hall and private rooms at the same time. There was still an hour before the auction officially began. Yu Haoren had already entered the auction lounge in advance. While enjoying Yunxiang's shoulder massage, he closed his eyes and pondered over the entire auction process. The door of the lounge was gently pushed open, and a beautiful maidservant walked in. Then, she whispered a few words in Yunxiang's ear. Waving her hand to signal the maidservant to leave, Yunxiang bent over and whispered in Yu Haoren's ear. Master, little Huang has already followed your instructions and successfully spread the news without arousing any suspicions. Yunxiang, tell the first elder that little Huang is a good seedling for business. If he is nurtured well, he will definitely become a genius in the business world. After opening his eyes, Yu Haoren praised with satisfaction. Master, I understand. Nodding her head, Yunxiang continued to massage Lin Huang's shoulders. After closing his eyes again, Yu Haoren sighed to Thaling in his sea of consciousness. Thaling, the flame has been ignited. As for whether it can become a prairie fire in the end, that will depend on the will of the heavens. While Yunxiang and Bian Xingrui were accompanying him to the auction, Thaling didn't idle around either. Using his victor body to possess the black bear, he carefully inspected the experts hidden in Twin Bull City. He discovered that although the auction this time had attracted many experts, there weren't any people who could truly affect the situation of the continent. Therefore, Yu Haoren could only leak the news of the Emperor Yuan Pil in advance in hopes of drawing out the 4 guardian families and some hidden experts who had been hibernating for 1,000 years. Yu Haoren, your cultivation base is too low. You don't know how difficult it is for Emperor Wu to break through to the next realm. Therefore, you don't know the fatal attraction of the first-rank Emperor Yuan Pil to some hidden experts. There were still 20 minutes before the auction officially began. All the experts participating in the auction had already entered the venue. Yu Haoren also ended his contemplation and stepped out of the lounge to prepare to host the auction. Because the auction this time was too grand, there were too many experts and top forces entering Twin Bull City. This caused Bian Xingrui to have some difficulty in arranging the private rooms. Under normal circumstances, a top sect like the Sky Sword sect would definitely arrange for them to be in a private room. However, there were 7 top sects and more than 40 families with over 1,000,000 years of history. 36 private rooms were definitely not enough. In the end, he could only helplessly arrange for them to be in the main hall. Seeing that Bian Xingrui had actually arranged for him to sit in an ordinary seat in the hall, the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect felt a naked humiliation. He immediately angrily declared that he would tear down the auction house and make it impossible for the auction to continue. As a result, Bian Xingrui could only try his best to explain and comfort him. If you want to be treated in a private room, then go chase away the people in the private rooms you like. Just as the Sky Sword sect master was making a ruckus, Yu Haoren happened to pass by and immediately reprimanded him with a dark expression. If you continue to make a ruckus, then scram from the auction house immediately. Surnamed Yu. Seeing Yu Haoren appear in front of him, the Sky Sword sect master immediately thought of Sky Sword Jianying, who had died tragically. He thought of Vice Sect Master Jian Yuan, who had been driven mad by the Sword Dao Fate, as well as Jian Yu and Lu Yuan, who had betrayed the sect. Boundless killing intent surged in his heart. Ignoring the Sky Sword sect master's killing intent, Yu Haoren coldly threatened, "If you don't withdraw your killing intent immediately, in 3 seconds at most, someone will take the initiative to kill you for me." Sensing the anger coming from the private rooms, the Sky Sword sect master's expression changed. He immediately suppressed his killing intent and gritted his teeth. "Surnamed Yu, is what you said true? Believe it or not, I can't be bothered with you." After leaving behind a sentence that almost made the Sky Sword sect master go berserk, Yu Haoren reminded Bian Xingrui. "Grand Elder, no matter who comes looking for you, just tell them directly that they can either go and snatch a private room themselves or sit in the main hall obediently." Chapter 1309. Right Ox City, in the auction venue. Prince Consort, is this appropriate? On the contrary, those who were qualified to participate in the auction were all experts who could influence the situation in Tianxian continent. They were also people that the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce could not afford to offend. If these people were neglected, Bien Xingrue was worried that it would bring trouble to the Chamber of Commerce and Yu Haoran. Very appropriate. While nodding to confirm, Yu Haoran looked at the 108 seats in the hall and reminded them with a sneer. At the same time, Great Elder would like to remind them that not only do they have to fight for the 36 private rooms, but they also have to fight for the 108 seats in the hall with their strength and confidence. If they don't get anything in the end, they can only stand apologetically. All right. Following Yu Haoran's gaze to the hall, Bien Xingrue found that although more than half of the 108 seats had been taken, there was still an endless stream of experts participating in the auction. He could only nod in agreement in the end. Yu Haoran could not help but sneer as he watched the Master of Sky Sword sect walk to the private room on the second floor, intending to drive the guests out. Then, he walked to the high platform built in the center of the hall on the first floor. He stood on the high platform and slowly closed his eyes. As he adjusted his emotions, he waited for the incense stick below the high platform to burn to its end. Scram! As soon as Yu Haoran closed his eyes, he heard a gloomy and angry shout from the private room on the second floor. Immediately afterward, he heard the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect apologizing. "I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I didn't know that you were an expert from the Nanmen family. I'll scram now." Yu Haoran opened his eyes slightly and looked at the sect master of the Sky Sword sect, who had left the room in a panic. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. Although the Nanmen family was an aristocratic family with a history of more than 1,000,000 years, they could only be considered an ordinary force among the dozens of families participating in the auction. Based on the level of experts and forces entering the hall, they would probably be driven out of the private room in the end. The Master of Sky Sword sect, who was fearful of the Nanmen family, had completely become a miserable and pitiful person. He was constantly scolded and humiliated by the big shots in the private room, but could only apologize with a smile. Then, he continued to humiliate himself and look for a private room. The two peerless Sword Dao experts who had just awakened not long ago had completely lost the pride that Sword Dao should have when they saw their sect master being kicked around like a rubber ball, yet he still did not repent and continued to humiliate himself. They glanced at each other and simultaneously restrained the sect master. Then, they forcefully brought him to a seat in the hall on the first floor. Yu Haoran could not help but shake his head as he looked at the sect master of the Sky Sword sect, who was struggling with all his might to get up but was firmly suppressed by the two martial saints standing behind him. In his previous life, although the Master of Sky Sword sect was not a person with great talent and vision, he was still a qualified master of a sect. Under his leadership, the Master of Sky Sword sect gradually gained the strength to become a top force after nearly 100 years of accumulation. However, for some reason in this life, the Master of Sky Sword sect's performance was very poor. Not only did he lose the pride that a swordsman should have, but he also lost the breadth of mind and judgment that a leader of a sect should have. Withdrawing his gaze from the Master of Sky Sword sect, Yu Haoran closed his eyes again and continued to regulate his breathing. When the incense at the corner of the stage was extinguished, Yunxiang, who had accompanied him on the stage to increase her experience, quickly reminded him, "Master, it's time." Cough. Slowly opening his eyes, a happy smile bloomed on his face. Yu Haoran glanced at the noisy scene and the people who were still entering the venue. He coughed lightly. Unfortunately, in the face of his light cough that contained a trace of origin energy, many experts in the hall chose to ignore it and continued to reminisce and quarrel. Yu Haoran forcibly suppressed the displeasure that emerged in his heart and said with a smile on his face, "Seniors, I, Yu Haoran, am very grateful to all of you for traveling thousands of miles to participate in the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce's auction in Rydok City. Here, on behalf of myself and the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce, I thank all of you for coming. I also wish all of you that your wishes will come true and you will return with a full load." Not only did they continue to reminisce and quarrel, They did not even look at him, completely ignoring his gratitude and congratulations just now. No matter how strong Yu Haoran's psychological quality was, he could not help but feel disappointed in the face of the rude attitude of the people in the hall. Therefore, Yu Haoran decided to skip the carefully prepared speech that could stir up the atmosphere of the scene and make people excited. He decided to directly start the auction of the items. He turned his head and nodded at Yunxiang. Then, she took out a tray from her storage ring and walked to his side. She was worried and asked in a low voice, "Master, are you okay?" "Yunxiang, this is the first lesson that I'm going to teach you. I'm going to let you know how to quickly adjust your state of mind and how to deal with this kind of situation when you are ignored." After shaking his head to indicate that he was fine, Yu Haoran looked at the chaotic hall and reminded her calmly. Then, he took out a pill bottle from his storage ring and placed it on the tray. He ignored the chaotic scene in the hall and shouted directly at the 36 private rooms on the second floor. The Supreme Hua Pill of the 3rd grade 1st grade can help a peak 9th grade martial saint and a 3rd tribulation quasi-martial honorable to break through to the martial honorable realm. The starting price of the Supreme Hua Pill of the 3rd grade 1st grade is 3 spiritual veins of the 9th grade lower grade. Each increment cannot be less than 1 spiritual vein of the 9th grade lower grade or 104th grade 1st grade spiritual stones. Just like the 9th grade 1st grade spiritual stones, the spiritual vein was also fixed at the 9th grade lower grade. At the same time, the exchange rate of the spiritual vein was the same as that of the spiritual stones. A spiritual vein of the 9th grade middle grade could be exchanged for 10 spiritual veins of the 9th grade lower grade. A spiritual vein of the 9th grade upper grade could be exchanged for 100 spiritual veins of the 9th grade lower grade, and so on. However, when the spiritual vein of the 5th grade reached the spiritual vein, the exchange rate would increase by several times. After Yu Haoran took out the Supreme Hua Pill of the 3rd grade 1st grade and announced the starting price, the chaotic scene immediately quietened down. However, some of the sect leaders of the clans and second-rate sects, who had been passed down for tens of thousands of years, did not receive the treatment of a private room. Even the seats in the hall were forcibly taken by someone else. While they were unhappy, they were completely angered by Yu Haoran's attitude. The sect leader of the Blood Kill sect, Qian Sha, who was dressed in a blood-red robe and whose cultivation had reached the 1st tribulation quasi-martial honorable realm, interrupted the auction and questioned with a gloomy face. Chapter 13:10. In the auction hall. That's right. In the face of Thousand Kill's gloomy questioning, Yu Haoran, to everyone's surprise, directly nodded and admitted it. Sect leader Shi, I, the prince consort, look down on you. What can you do? Although Thousand Kills was only the sect leader of a second-rate sect, he relied on the strange and ever-changing Phantom Thousand Kills secret technique to defeat and kill Second Tribulation quasi-martial venerable experts. Therefore, he had always put on the airs of a first-rate sect leader. Just now, not only did he directly ask Bian Xingrui to arrange the treatment of a private room, but after being rejected, he was also the one who made the most noise. Moreover, he secretly encouraged many people to start making trouble. The chaotic scene in the auction hall could not be calmed down, and a quarter of it had to do with Thousand Kills. This was also the reason why Yu Haoran directly admitted that he looked down on him. Because he wanted to use the method of killing the chicken to scare the monkey, using Thousand Kills' death as a warning to those who did not take him seriously, to let them know his methods and temper. Yu Haoran, I respectfully called you the Prince Consort because I gave face to the Emperor Qin of the Great Qin Empire, Emperor Qin. Facing Yu Haoran's merciless humiliation, Thousand Kills' heart suddenly surged with endless killing intent. He shook his head and sneered with a sinister expression. If not for the protection of the Prince Consort, the people of the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce would let you host the auction, and everyone here would tolerate you standing on the high platform. After hearing 1,000 Kills' sinister sneer, the patriarchs of the inherited families, who were originally standing beside him, immediately took a few steps back and looked at him with contempt in their eyes. In fact, 1,000 Kills' words just now should be reversed. If not for you, Howren, the 6 top sects and families, like the Zhou family, would not attend the wedding of an empire's princess. Therefore, the people present were quite speechless at 1,000 Kills' ridicule, which could be called idiotic. Many people also felt a trace of anger at his secret instigation. 1,000 Kills, I originally thought that as the sect master of a second-rate sect, you would be a very suitable target to kill a chicken to warn the monkeys. But now, it seems that I was wrong. This prince consort has overestimated you. You Howren, who was also speechless, could not help but shake his head in disappointment. Then, with a flash, he appeared in front of 1,000 Kills. 1,000 phantom slashes. Seeing you Howren instantly appear before him, a cold glint flashed across 1,000 Kills' eyes. Immediately, he executed his famous secret technique, 1,000 phantom kills. Following 1,000 Kills' low roar, his body suddenly exploded, instantly forming 1,000 identical blood shadows. Then, the blood shadows surrounded and attacked like a storm, dyeing the entire hall into a sea of blood. The perfection boundary of the law of speed allowed you Howren to quickly grab 1,000 Kills by the neck from the 1,000 blood shadows. Then, under 1,000 Kills' incredulous gaze, you Howren directly destroyed his soul and severed his life force. Along with 1,000 Kills' corpse and storage ring, you Howren directly threw them to one of the Chamber of Commerce's employees and instructed with a smile. Feed the corpse to your pet beast. The storage magic tool will be your reward for your hard work. As the sect leader of a second-rate sect and a peak First Tribulation quasi-martial venerable, he must have a lot of spirit stones and spirit veins in his storage Dharma artifact, as well as many pills and Dharma artifacts, as well as many rare treasures. You Howren did not even blink when he gave such a precious storage magic tool to a mere martial king errand boy. While the crowd was envious of the Chamber of Commerce's employees' luck, they could not help but sigh at you Howren's wealth. Many thanks for the prince consort's gift. Many thanks for the prince consort's gift. After repeatedly thanking you Howren for his generous reward, the Chamber of Commerce's employee immediately took 1,000 Kills' corpse and left the hall. Then, he went straight to the ordinary yellow dog he had just reared. His eyes occasionally flashed with a cold light as he looked at the crowd in the hall. At this moment, whether they were standing or sitting, whether they were the sect masters of first-rate sects or the patriarchs of inherited families, they were all obediently sitting or standing there. This was because they did not want to become the chicken that you Howren killed to scare the monkey. Although 1,000 Kills' performance was very idiotic, his own strength was indeed very strong. Through the thunderous attack just now, he had successfully intimidated everyone. Thus, you Howren directly returned to the high platform and continued the auction of the first item. Third tier first grade supreme Hua pill. The auction begins now. 10 ninth tier lower grade spiritual veins. As you Howren announced the start of the auction, the patriarch of the Qian clan in the hall immediately offered a price that was more than 3 times the original price. Regarding this, the crowd was not shocked at all. This was because the Qian clan was the same as the 3 great chambers of commerce. They were a family that mainly relied on business. The patriarch, Qian Xiaohao, was already a third tribulation quasi-martial saint expert and urgently needed a third-tier first-grade supreme Hua pill to break through to the martial saint realm. 12 ninth-tier lower-grade spiritual veins. Although the Qian clan was rich, the experts that were able to participate in the auction were all people of high status. Everyone had made sufficient preparations in advance. Thus, in less than 3 seconds after Qian Xiaohao made his bid, someone in the hall immediately began to double the price. 15 ninth tier lower grade spiritual veins. Turning his head to look at the person who was competing with him, Qian Xiaohao sneered and continued to double the price. 18 ninth tier lower grade spiritual veins. Ignoring Qian Xiaohao's gaze, the expert who had just bid continued to bid. 28 ninth tier lower grade spiritual veins. The double price showed that the person's wealth was not inferior to his. Immediately, Qian Xiaohao was enraged. He directly increased the price by 10 spiritual veins and then looked at his opponent provocatively. Faced with Qian Xiaohao's provocative bid, his opponent hesitated. After all, spiritual veins were different from spirit stones. Each low-grade 9th-level spiritual vein could produce at least 30 million 9th-level 1st-grade spirit stones. 28 low-grade 9th-level spiritual veins could produce a total of 10 billion spirit stones. This was already the limit of what he could bear. Seeing that his opponent had unwillingly chosen to give up, a happy smile gradually appeared on Qian Xiaohao's face. However, before his smile could fully bloom, it was suddenly frozen by the sound of a bid. 29 ninth tier lower grade spiritual veins. Qian Xiaohao angrily looked at the person who had just shouted the price. Then, a trace of reverence flashed in his eyes, and he took the initiative to give up the idea of continuing to bid. The opponent who could make Qian Xiaohao, who was a third tribulation quasi-martial saint, give up the bid was a young man who was about 20 years old and was only a 9th-grade martial saint. Looking at the young man who had a faint smile on his face and provocative eyes, Yu Haoran also had a smile on his face, but a trace of killing intent emerged in his heart. Because the young man who had frightened Qian Xiaohao and made him not dare to continue bidding was Qing Yu from the Yushu Temple. The reason he did so was to use the name of the Yushu Temple to lower the price of the auction item. Chapter 13:11. In the auction hall, Yu Haoran scanned the crowd in the hall and realized that ever since Qing Yu called out the price, some of the experts who were eager to try had chosen to lower their heads and remain silent. It was obvious that they had given up on competing for the 3rd-grade 1st-grade Hua Supreme Pill. The friend just now has already bid for 29 lower-grade 9th-level spiritual veins. I wonder if there are any friends who want to continue bidding. Fortunately, Yu Haoran had already expected this situation after the conflict with the earthly venerable. Therefore, he was not affected by the silence of the crowd at all. Suppressing the killing intent that had just emerged in his heart, he picked up the pill bottle on the tray and showed it to the crowd. Then, he opened the pill bottle and poured out the pill and explained in more detail. Everyone, the 3rd-grade 1st-grade Hua Supreme Pill that I have refined is using the void pill condensation technique, which was passed down from the Middle Ages. Not only is the energy contained in the pill purer, but it is also more effective in assisting in breaking through to the martial venerable realm. Yu Haoran raised his hand and pointed at Qian Xiaohao, who had taken the initiative to give up on bidding, and continued with encouragement and temptation. For example, if this senior is able to successfully bid for this pill, the success rate of breaking through to the martial venerable realm will be as high as 80%. After putting the pill back into the pill bottle, Yu Haoran exuded a strong sense of confidence. Moreover, I, Yu Haoran, am about to break through to the pill emperor realm. In the future, I will pursue higher grade pills, like the 3rd-grade 1st-grade Hua Supreme Pill. Perhaps I will not refine pills in the future. The effect that was far stronger than an ordinary 3rd-grade 1st-grade Hua Supreme Pill had successfully aroused the desire of many peak 9th-grade martial saints and quasi-martial venerables. It was very likely that he would not refine the 3rd-grade 1st-grade Hua Supreme Pill in the future. It was like a flame that directly ignited the desire in their hearts. 35 lower-grade 9th-level spiritual veins. A peak 3rd tribulation quasi-martial venerable realm rogue cultivator directly took out all of his assets to fight for it. As for whether he would offend the Yushu Temple after this, as long as he relied on the supreme Huazuan Pill to break through to the realm of martial venerable, even if the Yushu Temple wanted to take revenge, they would have to consider whether it was worth it. Even if the Yushu Temple wanted to take revenge, with the strength of a peerless martial venerable, he could just hide in the endless ocean islands. What could the Yushu Temple do to him? The rogue cultivator took the initiative to break the pressure brought by the Yushu Temple, which instantly ignited the burning desire of the people at the scene. Ignoring Qin Yu's increasingly gloomy face, they all joined the bidding. 38 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. 40 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. In just 3 minutes, the bidding price of the 3rd grade 1st grade Huazuan pill had already exceeded 59th grade lower rank 9 spiritual pulse, successfully squeezing into the top 5 in the history of the auction. Yu Haoran looked at Qin Yu with a smile, provoking her to continue bidding. In response, Qin Yu clenched her fists and her eyes burned with anger. She had no strength to participate in the bidding of the 3rd grade 1st grade Huazuan pill. Looking at the faint smile on Yu Haoran's face, Bian Xingrui's eyes revealed a look of admiration. If he had been in front of the Yushu Temple's provocation just now, he would have chosen to compromise in the end. He would not have come up with such a fierce counterattack. 60 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. Just as the number of spiritual veins exceeded 50, the fierce bidding gradually slowed down, which also meant that the price that the people could afford was about to reach the limit. Therefore, Bian Xingrue and those who did not participate in the bidding thought that the final price would not exceed 60 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. However, the sudden sound of bidding from private room 32 directly shattered everyone's guesses. The distinguished guest in private room 32 has already bid 60 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. I wonder if there are any friends who want to continue bidding. Yu Haoran also did not expect that the owner of private room 32 would suddenly participate in the bidding. After all, in this auction, in addition to the 3rd grade 1st grade Huazuan pill, there were also 3rd grade 9th grade Huazuan pills. Therefore, he did not think that the experts in the private rooms would be interested in the 3rd grade 1st grade Huazuan pill. However, considering the experts and forces participating in this auction, he gradually understood the intention of the owner of private room 32. They probably did not have enough confidence to participate in the bidding for the 3rd grade 9th grade Huazuan pill. It would be better for them to take a step back and compete for the 3rd grade 1st grade Huazuan pill. 65 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. The owner of private room 29 also suddenly made a bid. Just like how Yu Haoran was able to guess the thoughts of the owner of private room 32, the owners of the other private rooms also quickly thought of this. Therefore, they knew that they could not compete with a top force like the Yushu Temple. Soon, the owners of private rooms also participated in the bidding. 60 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins was the final price that Yu Haoran offered for the 3rd grade 1st grade Huazuan pill. Therefore, in the face of the price that continued to compete, he did not continue to arouse the emotions of the people present. He only waited quietly for the final bidding result. 68 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. The owner of private room 32 did not want to be outdone and continued to raise the price. 77 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. The owner of private room 29 also raised the price. 71 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. 73 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. In the end, the owner of private room 29 successfully bid for the 3rd grade 1st grade Huazuan pill with the sky-high price of 81 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. Using the method of wrapping origin energy, he sent the pill bottle containing the 3rd grade 1st grade Huazuan pill to Bian Xingrue. Then, he was responsible for the transaction of the supreme Huazuan pill and the spiritual veins. After Bian Xingrue returned with the storage device containing the 81 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins, Yu Haoran took out the second auction item. It was a sword that had reached the upper grade of the Honorable Realm. A complete upper grade of the Honorable Realm sword. The Absolute Soul sword has a sleeping spirit. It contains 49 offensive formations and 18 defensive formations. It can be used to communicate with the spirit and refine it into a life sword. It can also be used as an inheritance treasure of a sect or family. Reaching out and flicking the sword in his hand, Yuhauran explained the specific structure of the upper grade of the Honorable Realm sword in detail. Although they knew in advance that Yuhauran would auction a few Honorable Realm weapons in addition to the top elixirs, they were immediately excited when they saw the sword that had reached the upper grade of the Honorable Realm and had a sleeping spirit. Glancing at the people in the hall and then looking up at the 36 private rooms, Yuhauran directly inserted the sealed Absolute Soul sword into the high platform and then gave the bidding price that everyone present found unacceptable. Chapter 13:12. In the auction hall. After hearing the price Yuhauran gave, there was a gasp in the auction hall. If the price of the upper Honorable Realm Breaking Soul sword was a lower rank 9 spiritual vein, the people present could still accept this price. However, a spiritual stone of the first rank 9 spiritual vein was not just cheap, it was a humiliation to the Breaking Soul sword and sword principle. Damn it! Seeing that Yuhauran had ruined the upper Honorable Realm Breaking Soul sword and humiliated the upright sword principle, the Sky Sword Sect Master immediately cursed with a ferocious look. After all, the Sky Sword Sect was not only a pure sword cultivator, but also the orthodox sword principle in the eyes of countless sword cultivators in Tianxian continent. Yuhauran's humiliation of sword principle was equivalent to a humiliation to the Sky Sword Sect. If Yuhauran hadn't killed the Blood Killgates Sect Master, 1,000 kills, with lightning speed, the Sky Sword Sect Master would definitely have scolded him. At the same time, the two martial honorable swordsmen standing behind him looked at Yuhauran with a gloomy look. From time to time, the thought of challenging him appeared in their eyes. However, as some of the people who had attended the wedding, they could understand Yuhauran's intention to ruin the upper Honorable Realm Breaking Soul sword. After all, daring to destroy the natal sword that he had painstakingly refined meant that he had completely broken off with sword principle. It was completely normal to humiliate sword principle by ruining the Breaking Soul sword. The auction for the upper Honorable Realm Breaking Soul sword will now begin. 15 lower rank 9 spiritual veins. After Yuhauran announced the start of the auction for the Breaking Soul sword, the Sky Sword Sect Master used all his assets to raise the price of the Breaking Soul sword. In response, Yuhauran only smiled indifferently. Although the sword principle Providence had rudely broken the natal sword of thousands of sword cultivators in order to protect the character of the Sky Sword as the #1 martial art, sword principle was still a cultivation path that countless people yearned for and pursued. Even if he were to lower the price of the Absolute Soul sword, the final transaction price would probably not lose out to a stage 3 first-grade Hua Zundan. Just as he had guessed, the price of the Absolute Soul sword began to rise. In the end, the price of the Absolute Soul sword quickly exceeded the price of 60 low-grade 9th-level spiritual veins. 73 low-grade 9th-order spiritual veins. In the end, the owner of room 31 gave a sky-high price that made everyone give up on bidding. Congratulations to the owner of private room 31 for successfully obtaining the soul-breaking sword, a high-grade venerable realm weapon. As he loudly announced the winner of the auction, Yuhauran wrapped the item in elemental energy and sent it to Bian Xingrui. A complete upper-grade venerable realm saber weapon with a dormant weapon spirit, 64 offensive formations and 18 defensive formations. After receiving the storage device from Bian Xingrui that contained the spiritual veins, Yuhauran took the opportunity to take out the third auction item. After introducing it in detail like the Absolute Soul Sword, he gave a price that made the Sky Sword Sect Master furious. The Sea Sealing Saber, an upper-grade venerable realm saber weapon, is auctioned for 3 low-grade 9th-level spiritual veins. Each bid cannot be lower than 1 low-grade 9th level spiritual vein or 100 first-grade 4th level spiritual stones. You will definitely pay a painful price for humiliating sword principle in the future. The Sky Sword Sect master gritted his teeth and muttered to himself when he saw the huge difference between the price of a saber weapon and a sword weapon in Yu Haoran's bid. 60 low-grade 9th level spiritual veins. The owner of Private Room 27 went straight for the Sea-Sealing Saber, an upper-grade Venerable Realm saber weapon. At the same time, he gave a sky-high price to deter some people who wanted to bid for the Sea-Sealing Saber. In the end, the Sea-Sealing Saber was sold for 60 low-grade 9th level spiritual veins. Yu Haoran did not resent the owner of Private Room 27. This was because compared to the hundreds of millions of sword cultivators in the mysterious Tianxian continent, there were far fewer saber cultivators and even fewer truly famous experts. Therefore, the price of 60 low-grade 9th level spiritual veins was within the range that he expected and could afford. After the Sea-Sealing Saber was sold, Yu Haoran paused for a minute and took out a fist-sized, dark green pearl. He then began to introduce it in detail. The Sea God's Pearl is one of the overlords of the South Sea. It's condensed from the essence of a sea snake that's at the peak of the 9th level Venerable Realm. Not only can it improve the physique of a water attribute martial artist, but it also has the powerful defensive ability of a low-grade Venerable Realm defensive artifact. More importantly, this Sea God's Pearl contains a drop of the sea snake's life essence before it passed away. It can help a pet beast with the divine dragon bloodline directly advance by 1 or 2 grade. After hearing Yu Haoran's introduction of the Sea God's Pearl, Bian Xingrui couldn't help but light up. Although the Sea God's Pearl was an auction item provided by Heavenly Earth, the Chamber of Commerce's identification and understanding of the Sea God's Pearl was limited to its effects of improving and defending. They did not know that the Sea God's Pearl actually contained a drop of the sea snake's life essence. At this moment, he finally understood why Yu Haoran had placed the Sea God's Pearl in the auction order after the 3rd level 1st level Supreme Transformation Elixir, the Upper Venerable Realm Soul Severing Sword, and the Sea-Sealing Saber. At this moment, he was even more aware that the Sea God's Pearl, which was originally estimated to be auctioned for at most 20 low-grade 9th level spiritual veins, would probably be sold for a sky-high price in the end. It would not only allow Heavenly Earth to earn a large sum of spiritual veins, but also further enhance his status in the Chamber of Commerce. Therefore, Bian Xingrui looked at Yu Haoran with gratitude. The starting price of the Sea God's Pearl is 5 low-grade 9th level spiritual veins. The price of each auction cannot be lower than 1 low-grade 9th level spiritual vein or 104th level 1st level spiritual stones. The auction for the Sea God's Pearl begins now. Due to the Dragon Clan's desolate nature, they left behind many descendants with the Divine Dragon's bloodline. Therefore, the number of exotic beasts in the Tianxian continent with the Divine Dragon's bloodline was the highest. This led to most of the warriors' pet beasts containing the Divine Dragon's bloodline. Therefore, in the face of the Sea God's Pearl that contained a drop of the Divine Dragon's life essence, even the owners of the private rooms began to participate in the auction. The Sea God's Pearl was finally sold at the price of 63 low-grade 9th level spiritual veins. This made Yu Haoran secretly heave a sigh of relief, and also made Lian Xingrui smile widely. As the Sea God's Pearl was an auction item provided by Heavenly Earth, the spiritual veins that were auctioned in the end could only belong to the Chamber of Commerce. Therefore, after sending the Sea God's Pearl to Bian Xingrui, Yu Haoran took out the 5th auction item. Looking at the pill bottle that Yu Haoran took out, the reactions of the people in the hall were relatively calm. However, most of the people in the private rooms immediately became nervous. This was because, according to the information that they had received beforehand, there were a total of 4 types of pills among the 8 auction items that Yu Haoran took out. According to the value of the pills, it was very likely that the pill bottle that had just been taken out contained a 3rd level 9th level supreme pill. Chapter 13:13. In the auction hall, Yuharan could feel the tension coming from most of the private rooms. He did not let them wait too long and opened the pill bottle directly. As he let the special fragrance from the pill bottle drift in the auction hall, he introduced the origin of the treasure in the pill bottle in detail, as well as its various powerful effects. A drop of rank 1 grade 1 absolute beginning ginseng has the powerful effect of a rank 3 grade 1 supreme huazuan pill to assist in breaking through to the martial honor realm. At the same time, it can greatly improve one's physique and increase one's potential and comprehension. More importantly, using the ginseng liquid to break through to the martial honor realm will not have the slightest side effect. It was different from the auction of the rank 3 grade 1 supreme huazuan pill, and it was also different from the martial honor realm upper soul breaking sword and sea-sealing saber. When they heard that the pill bottle contained a drop of rank 1 grade 1 absolute beginning ginseng, some of the top young experts with monstrous talent immediately became excited. Their breathing gradually became heavier as they looked at the pill bottle. 4 geniuses with monstrous talent, breaking through to the martial honor realm was not difficult. However, the reason why they had been suppressing the breakthrough was because they hoped to continuously increase their accumulation and then use the enormous hidden dragon luck to advance to a higher martial honor realm in one fell swoop. At the same time, they would also have the hope of breaking through to the Emperor Wu realm in the future. The rank 1 grade 1 absolute beginning ginseng's ginseng liquid was the best treasure to increase one's accumulation. Prince Consort, where did you get the absolute beginning ginseng's ginseng liquid? In the hall, a second tribulation quasi-martial honor realm rogue cultivator who was proficient in alchemy asked a question that he should not have asked in his excitement. After all, as a rank 1 grade 1 absolute beginning ginseng that could immediately become a martial honor, its true value was comparable to a martial emperor upper soul weapon. No matter who obtained such a heaven-defying treasure, they would all carefully keep it, afraid that the news would leak and cause unnecessary trouble. Therefore, when he felt the strange gazes of the people around him, the rogue cultivator immediately wanted to bow and apologize, but he was interrupted by Yuharan's answer. Some time ago, I was lucky enough to enter the Hidden Dragon Wonderland unique to the great Emperor Qin's kingdom to train and obtained it from a young man who had just broken through to the martial honor realm. At this point, Yuharan suddenly shook his head and sighed. It's a pity that the young man from the God clan only had 2 drops of ginseng liquid. He did not have any rank 1 or rank 1 absolute primordium ginseng liquid. Otherwise, I would definitely have used enough ginseng liquid to refine a peak pill that could greatly increase the strength of a martial saint. Prince Consort, could the young man from the God clan you mentioned be the God clan of the ancient God clan and Devil clan that replaced the ancient divine beasts? Compared to the thirst of the people in the hall for the ginseng liquid, the owners of the more than 10 private rooms at the top of the list were focused on the young Protoss he had just mentioned. Yuharan raised his head and looked at the number 3 private room who had asked about the origin of the Protoss youth. It was another old ancestor with real power from the Zhou family. In response to Senior Zhou's question, it is the god race that once ruled the ancient era for millions of years. Prince Consort, the news that the remnants of the god race still exist is too shocking. Are you 100% certain? Old Ancestor Zhou could not help but question Yuharan's reply. Yuharan knew very well what kind of impact the news of the remnants of the god race that had disappeared for almost 2 centuries would have on the people present. Thus, he did not care at all about Old Ancestor Zhou's doubts and confirmed further. Senior Zhou, because this junior killed the god race youth and caused the secret realm to close, the powerful experts of the god race took revenge. Among the people present at the time, there were the elite disciples of the noble families of the Emperor Qin's kingdom as well as senior brother Ting Yun of the heavenly martial sect. Prince Consort, even if a few remnants of the god race appear in the profound sky continent, how much can they cause? Thus, you should quickly announce the starting price of the absolute beginning ginseng. Compared to the importance the owner of the room placed on the remnants of the god race, the experts of the sects and families in the hall who did not understand the terror of the god race were more concerned with the price of the liquid and wanted to know who the liquid would belong to. Thus, a prodigy from the Wu family could not help but urge loudly. Using the liquid of the absolute beginning ginseng to leak the news of the god race's existence was a plan that Yu Haoran had thought of on the spot. The final effect was not bad. At the same time, to ensure the smooth progress of the auction, it was not good to continue revealing and discussing more about the god race. Thus, Yu Haoran nodded when faced with the urging of the Wu clan's monstrous genius, and then he gave the starting bid for the primordial mysterious ginseng liquid. The starting price of a drop of liquid of the absolute beginning ginseng is 10 lower rank 9 spirit veins. The price of each bid cannot be lower than 1 lower rank 9 spirit vein or 100 lower rank 4 spirit stones. Yu Haoran announced loudly after sweeping his gaze across the crowd and the 36 rooms on the second floor. The auction will now begin. 11 lower rank 9 spirit veins. Just as Yu Haoran announced the start of the auction, Qing Yu from the Yushu Temple gave the starting price and stood up to make a request to the crowd. Everyone, this drop of liquid is very important to Qing Yu. I hope that everyone can give up on bidding for the sake of the Yushu Temple. Qing Yu will be eternally grateful. In the face of Qing Yu's request, or more accurately, a threat, everyone present could not help but hesitate. It was different from the threat during the bidding for the Supreme Transformation Elixir. That was a small way for Qing Yu to take revenge on Yu Haoran. Although he would be very angry at the person who ruined his revenge plan, he would not necessarily take revenge afterward. However, a drop of liquid of the absolute beginning ginseng was different. This was not just a means to take revenge on Yu Haoran, but also related to his hopes of reaching a higher realm in the future. Whoever dared to compete with him for the liquid would be his mortal enemy. According to the style of the Yushu Temple, Qing Yu was likely to take revenge immediately after the auction. He might even take revenge on the spot. Seeing that everyone in the hall chose to remain silent because of fear of the Yushu Temple, Qing Yu looked directly at the 36 rooms on the second floor. Because only they were really not afraid of the Yushu Temple and dared to compete with him for the liquid. Whoever dares to compete with Qing Yu for the liquid is an enemy of the Yushu Temple. Seeing that Qing Yu was determined to get the liquid, the terrestrial venerable, as his master, immediately gave him strong support. Qing Yu broke the rules of the auction, which could be explained by being young and ignorant. However, the terrestrial venerable's threat just now was a blatant contempt for the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce. This made Bian Xingrui's face instantly gloomy. At this moment, he hated the terrestrial venerable's overbearingness and could not help but resent Wu Siqing, who had left the Twin Ox Mountain. Chapter 13-14. In the auction house. Even the terrestrial venerable, the master of the underground palace of the Yushu Temple, took the initiative to support his disciple. Everyone at the scene immediately looked at the high platform. They wanted to see how Yu Haoran would deal with the terrestrial venerable and Qing Yu's means of breaking the rules. In the face of Qing Yu and the terrestrial venerable's shameless means of revenge, Yu Haoran did not show any anger. He still had a faint smile on his face. Looking up at the number 1 private room on the second floor, he said with a chuckle, "Terrestrial Venerable, since you and your disciple broke the rules of the auction first, then don't blame me for using rogue means to fight back." Then, he nodded to a beautiful maidservant under the high platform. 80 lower 9th level spiritual veins. After receiving Yu Haoran's nod, the beautiful maidservant immediately gave a drop of upper heaven-level spiritual veins possessed by a drop of ginseng liquid. You're just a lowly maid in the 9th level of martial arts grandmaster realm. Let alone 80 lower 9th level spiritual veins, I'm afraid she can't even take out one lower 10th level spiritual vein. You're not just cheating, you're breaking the rules of the auction house. Seeing that the beautiful maidservant not only participated in the auction, but also gave a price that he could not afford, Qing Yu immediately questioned him angrily. In the face of Qing Yu's questioning, Yu Haoran, who instantly stopped smiling, said with a cold expression, "Qing Yu, your master humiliated Yunxiang as a lowly maid. My way of fighting back was just more vicious abuse. That was because I had no choice but to be inferior. But you..." Yu Haoran threatened Qing Yu with a strong murderous aura, which was completely tangible, directly shrouding Qing Yu. "If you dare to say another word to humiliate her, even if the terrestrial venerable, this shameless old guy, does it himself, I will definitely destroy your soul." Without giving Qing Yu any chance to fight back, Yu Haoran, who instantly withdrew his strong murderous aura, quickly replaced the indifference with a smile, and continued to speak. "Before the auction, according to the agreement between this prince consort and the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce, no matter how high the final transaction price is, they will not take a penny of commission from the 8 items that belong to this prince consort. In other words, the final result of the bidding for this drop of ginseng liquid is nothing more than switching from my left hand to my right hand. I won't suffer any losses. So, if you want to take revenge on me through shameless means of threatening everyone present, then this prince consort will give you a sentence. Child, don't be silly. Wash up and go to bed." Under normal circumstances, the shameless method Yu Haoran had just used could be said to be extremely shameless and annoying. However, not only did the people present not have the slightest bit of disgust, but they also felt that Yu Haoran, who had revealed his true nature, was very cute. Ha ha! Of course, they were also amused by the last sentence Yu Haoran used to humiliate Qing Yu. At the same time, they couldn't help but roar with laughter. After seeing Yu Haoran's counterattack, Bian Xingrui, who looked gloomy, admired him and had a better understanding of how to deal with the emergency of the auction. Yu Haoran's threat and humiliation, and the laughter of the people present, made Qing Yu's eyes burn with rage. He clenched his fists and stared straight at Yu Haoran. He couldn't wait to rush up to the high platform and directly cut Yu Haoran into pieces. However, thinking that his master had once said that Yu Haoran was protected by powerful guardians, Qing Yu, who cherished his life, could only suppress the murderous aura in his heart by continuous deep breaths. Then, he calmly stepped out of the hall and directly returned to the number 1 private room on the 2nd floor. A coward without a trace of courage. How dare you dream of becoming a powerful expert like Emperor Wu in the future? I think you're daydreaming. Just as Qing Yu pushed open the door of the number 1 private room and was about to step into the room, Yu Haoran mocked him without lowering his voice. Bang! As the door slammed heavily in the auction hall, Qing Yu finally endured Yu Haoran's mockery. Ahem! After clearing his throat, Yu Haoran waited for the people's attention to return to the high platform and him. Because the terrestrial venerable of the Yushu Temple and Qing Yu shamelessly broke the rules of the auction, the result of the ginseng liquid auction just now is invalid. Next, let's start the auction again for a drop of primordial ginseng liquid. 40 lower level 9 spiritual meridians. As soon as Yu Haoran announced the start of the auction, Forefather Zhou from the number 3 private room directly bid 4 times the price. The purpose of this was to show that he was determined to get the ginseng liquid and to indirectly support Yu Haoran. 50 lower level 9 spiritual meridians. Although the owner of the number 5 private room didn't have the intention to support Yu Haoran, he still showed that he was determined to get the ginseng liquid. After all, the results of the Hidden Dragon battle not only affected the fate of the participants, but also had unimaginable benefits to the forces behind the participants. For example, if Yu Haoran was able to seize the position of champion in the Southern Territory's Hidden Dragon rankings, then not only would he be able to obtain the enhancement of enormous Hidden Dragon karmic luck, the Yu Clan, 100-foot sect, and Grand Qin Empire that stood behind him would similarly obtain the protection of the hidden dragon karmic luck, and even more peerless and monstrous geniuses would appear in the future. This was also one of the important reasons why the Emperor Qin agreed to such a hasty wedding and persuaded him to participate in the Hidden Dragon Wonderland trial. It was to deepen their relationship so that they could share more of the protection of the Hidden Dragon fate. 60 lower level 9 spiritual meridians. The owner of the number 4 private room followed. 65 lower level 9 spiritual meridians. 70 lower level 5 spiritual meridians. In less than 30 seconds, the price of the primordial ginseng rose to 80 lower level 9 spiritual meridians. This made everyone admire Yu Haoran's estimation of the ginseng liquid's true value. At the same time, they were even more disgusted by the Yushu Temple's bullying methods. After all, the difference in value between 11 and 80 lower level 9 spiritual meridians was too great. This was no longer an auction that broke the rules, but a blatant robbery. When the price of the primordial ginseng liquid exceeded 80 lower level 9 spiritual meridians, the number and speed of the auction started to slow down. It wasn't that the bidders lacked enough spiritual meridians, but that they didn't want to spend too many spiritual meridians on the ginseng liquid and affect the auction of more precious treasures. 88 lower level 9 spiritual meridians, this is my bottom line. Forefather Zhou from the number 3 private room directly increased the number of spiritual meridians by 3 and expressed his attitude towards the next auction. Chapter 13-15. Inside the Auction Hall. 90 low-grade level 9 spirit veins. Just as Forefather Zhou gave a low price that he was willing to accept, the owners of the private rooms who had been competing with him immediately fell silent after careful consideration. This meant that they had given up on competing for the ginseng elixir. Thus, Yu Haoran opened his mouth and was about to start the countdown when he heard a surprising bid. He was surprised because, other than the fact that someone was able to continue bidding, the bid had come from the hall. The unexpected bid immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the private rooms. Everyone's gaze immediately turned to a black-cloaked person standing in the corner of the hall. Because most of the people in the auction hall were experts from the top factions of the Tianxian continent, they were players who could set the rules of the game. They were also a group of people who were used to being domineering. Thus, when they could not see the true face of the bidder, many people immediately used their divine perception to forcibly pass through the cover of the black cloak. They wanted to see the background of the black-cloaked person who dared to compete with Forefather Zhou for the ginseng elixir. However, as painful screams came from the auction hall, Yu Haoran, who did not rashly use his divine perception to check, was shocked to find that all his divine perception to check the background of the black-cloaked person had been burned by the black flame emitted by the black cloak. Black Nirvana Flame. An expert from Room 7 who also possessed an exotic flame recognized the true origin of the black flame through the exotic flame that had already developed intelligence the moment his divine thought was destroyed by the black flame. Black Nirvana Flame, a terrifying flame that ranks 7th among the hundreds of flames in the Tianxian continent. A newly born Black Nirvana Flame already had the power of a martial honorable. A mature Black Nirvana Flame had the power of Emperor Wu's almighty realm. At the same time, the Black Nirvana Flame was one of the few special flames that could become a divine flame. Thus, when he heard the owner of Private Room 7 shout out the origin of the black flame, Yu Haoran finally understood why the yin-yang flame origin in his dantian was so excited when the black cloak emitted the black flame. After all, as a yin-yang flame origin that could devour and merge all the energy in the world, it had a stronger impulse to devour and merge flames of the same origin. Yu Haoran, suppress the impulses of the yin-yang heavenly flames in your dantian. You must not provoke that black-clothed man. Just as Yu Haoran figured out the reason for the yin-yang heavenly flames' excitement, the fouling in his sea of consciousness suddenly reminded him. Why? Yuhauran asked. He didn't ask because he wanted to snatch the black nirvana heavenly flame from his opponent, but because of the seriousness in Thaling's warning. That's because it's the black nirvana flame. It's just that it used a special method to transform into a human body. It also has the terrifying power of Emperor Wu. Thaling explained with a serious expression. After hearing Thaling's explanation, Yuhauran couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He looked at the black-clothed man with a look of dread. After all, the Heavenly Way was still monitoring and suppressing Emperor Wu, but the black nirvana heavenly flame could still act without restraint. This was enough to show that its cultivation and strength had probably reached the peak of Emperor Wu's realm and could resist the suppression of the Heavenly Way. Seeing Yuhauran staring at the black nirvana heavenly flame, Thaling quickly reminded him, "Yuhauran, don't pay too much attention to the black nirvana heavenly flame. Don't make it hostile." Quickly withdrawing his gaze from the black nirvana heavenly flame, Yuhauran closed his eyes and used a deep breath and a strong state of mind to suppress it. He finally calmed down the shock in his heart. Then, he slowly opened his eyes and was about to open his mouth to announce the countdown. The owner of room 19 was greedy for the power and preciousness of the black nirvana heavenly flame. He wanted to use the excuse of his divine sense being burned to forcefully seize the black nirvana heavenly flame. "Brat, you dare to use the heavenly flame to burn this sovereign's divine sense? I think you're tired of living." Accompanied by an angry shout, a sharp sword chi emitting a terrifying aura shot out from room 19 and went straight for the black-clothed man formed by the black nirvana heavenly flame. Yuhauran looked at room 19 with disdain and couldn't help but shake his head. Even the Heavenly Way was unable to suppress the black nirvana heavenly flame. How could a mere peak 6th grade martial saint like you deal with it? Facing the sharp sword chi, the black-clothed man stretched out his black and shiny left hand and directly grabbed the sharp sword chi. Then, his left hand gently clenched and the sharp sword chi instantly turned into white smoke. Then, the black-clothed man formed by the black nirvana heavenly flame raised his head and looked at Yuhauran before charging towards room 19 like lightning. According to the rules of the auction, it was forbidden to use force during the auction. So, when they saw the black-clothed man charging towards room 19, everyone's gaze turned towards the stage. They wanted to see what Yuhauran's attitude would be. Wanting to covet the black nirvana heavenly flame, you deserve to die. Facing everyone's gaze, Yuhauran indifferently gave himself an attitude. Although the black-clothed man had displayed the strength of a peak 3rd grade martial saint when he destroyed the sharp sword chi, the owner of room 19 was not only a peak 6th grade martial saint expert, but he also came from the Ma clan that had existed for nearly 10 million years. So, when faced with Yuhauran's attitude and his judgment of the black-clothed man's strength, the Sky Sword sect master, who had finally found an opportunity, immediately mocked loudly. "Yuhauran, as the auctioneer in charge of the auction, you must have sharp eyesight and rich experience. The judgment you gave the black-clothed man just now not only shows your arrogance and ignorance, it also proves that you don't have the ability to host the auction." Looking at the Sky Sword sect master with disdain, Yuhauran's lips slightly curled up as he mocked. "You self-righteous idiot! Yuhauran, what did you say?" Hearing Yuhauran's mocking, the Sky Sword sect master immediately stood up in rage and shouted with a sinister expression. However, when he saw the door to room 19 being reopened and the black-clothed man, whose aura was as calm as water, as if he had never made a move, left the room, his expression couldn't help but change. Because the black-clothed man who left room 19 did not close the door, everyone could clearly see that there was no one in the room. There were no sounds of fighting, nor were there any energy fluctuations. While everyone was shocked by the black-clothed man's terrifying strength, they also felt incomparable admiration for Yuhauran's astonishing eyesight. As for the experts from room 10, Their gazes were filled with fear as they looked at the black-clothed man. Even the Zhou clan's ancestor, whose cultivation had reached the level of quasi-Emperor Wu, was unable to silently kill a peak 6th grade martial saint expert. Chapter 13-16. In the auction venue. Idiot! Seeing that the Black Nirvana heavenly flame had returned to its original position, Yu Haoran mocked the sect leader of the Sky Sword sect again. Then, he ignored the sect leader of the Sky Sword sect, who had a livid expression, and began to read out the countdown for the auction. Not only did 90 rank 9 spiritual veins far exceed the value of a drop of ginseng liquid, but the terrifying strength displayed by the black-clothed man had also completely dispelled some of the experts' fantasies about the ginseng liquid. Therefore, after 3 countdowns, the ginseng liquid was finally obtained by the black-clothed man formed by the Black Nirvana heavenly fire. Yu Haoran accepted the storage Dharma artifact that the black-robed man had transformed from the dark Nirvana mystical fire had thrown to him. Yu Haoran acted as if he trusted the dark Nirvana mystical fire and put it away into the domain tower without inspecting it. The chaos caused by the black-clothed man formed by the Black Nirvana heavenly fire instantly quieted down after Yu Haoran took out the 6th pill bottle. Everyone's eyes were on the pill bottle in his hand. Yu Haoran chuckled and opened the pill bottle. He poured out the pill bottle and introduced it to the crowd. Rank 3, Rank 9 Supreme Hua Pill. Not only does it have a 90% success rate in helping one break through to the martial venerable realm, it also has the powerful effect of increasing one's cultivation level. After showing the Stage 3, 9th grade Supreme Hua Pill in his hand to everyone present, Yu Haoran kept the pill back into the pill bottle. Then, he placed the pill bottle on the tray and began to give the starting bid for the Stage 3, 9th grade Supreme Hua Pill. The starting bid for the Rank 3, Rank 9 Supreme Hua Pill is 20 Rank 9 spiritual veins. Each bid cannot be lower than a Rank 3, Rank 9 spiritual vein, and cannot be lower than 10,000 Rank 4, Rank 1 spiritual stones. The auction starts now. 60 Rank 9 spiritual veins. Just as Yu Haoran announced the start of the auction, Qing Yu from room 1 immediately gave a high price. However, the owners of the rooms who were not afraid of the Yushu Temple completely ignored Qing Yu's bid and immediately gave a higher price. 70 Rank 9 spiritual veins. 75 Rank 9 spiritual veins. In less than a minute, the bidding price of the third step, 9th grade Huazuan Dan, directly broke through 100 lines. In the end, when it reached 113 lines, the bidding price began to slow down. 120 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. The earthly venerable from the Yushu Temple in room 1 not only personally participated in the auction, but also directly increased the price by 7 spiritual meridians, fully demonstrating his determination to obtain the level 3, grade 9 supreme transformation pill. It was a pity that the owners of the top 10 private rooms were not afraid of the Yushu Temple's power, nor did they care about the revenge of the terrestrial venerable. So, just as the Earth Venerate finished bidding, Forefather Zhou's bid sounded. 123 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. 130 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. Seeing Forefather Zhou disrespect him and the Yushu Temple, the earthly venerable's confident expression immediately darkened. He gritted his teeth and continued to bid. He couldn't help but threaten. Everyone, why don't you give me and the Yushu Temple some face? 133 low-grade 9th order spiritual veins. In the face of the earthly venerable's threat, Forefather Zhou laughed and provoked him after bidding again. Earthly venerable, as long as you swear to give up the next auction, I can give you this third step, 9th order supreme transformation pill. Zhou family elder, could it be that you want to compete with me in terms of wealth? The earthly venerable provoked Forefather Zhou in a sinister tone. I'll accompany you to the end. Due to the influence of the heavenly Tao, the Zhou family didn't accumulate many high-grade spiritual veins. However, it wasn't a problem to casually take out hundreds or thousands of 7th order, 8th order, and 9th order spiritual veins. Therefore, Forefather Zhou fought back fearlessly in the face of the Earthly Venerable's provocation. Earthly Venerable, the life essence pill concerns whether the Heavenly Venerable can enter the time turbulence to obtain the ritual implement left behind by the God King. I hope you can consider the overall situation. In the face of Forefather Zhou's counterattack, the Earthly Venerable wanted to immediately bid back, but a Martial Venerable subordinate's reminder suddenly rang out in his mind. He thought of the importance of the God King ritual implement in the time turbulence to whether the Yushu Temple could conquer the world in the future. When he thought of the Heavenly Venerable's ruthless methods, the Earthly Venerable could only take a deep breath and give up the bidding for the 3rd step, 9th Order Supreme Transformation pill with slight humiliation. Loud thunder but little rain. Just like Qingyue, he is also a coward who lacks courage. Originally, Yu Haoran had thought that the Earthly Venerable, who had been angered by Forefather Zhou, would make the final auction price of the 3rd step, 9th Order Supreme Transformation pill reach an astronomical figure. However, the Earthly Venerable's silence made him slightly unhappy. He couldn't help but mock him. The Earthly Venerable's murderous gaze pierced through the private room's barrier and stared fixedly at Yu Haoran, who was standing on the high platform. At this moment, he wanted nothing more than to rush to the high platform and tear Yu Haoran into pieces. However, when he thought that the most important origin life pill had yet to appear, he could only temporarily suppress the murderous intent in his heart and close his eyes, choosing to turn a blind eye. You're just bullying ordinary people with no foundation. It seems that the Yushu Temple really doesn't live up to its name. Yu Haoran continued to mock him with a cold smile when he felt the Earthly Venerable's murderous gaze. Then, he looked up at the 34 private rooms on the 2nd floor and began to ask if there were anyone who wanted to continue bidding. 133 lower level 9 spirit veins had far exceeded the value of the 3rd step, 9th Order Supreme Transformation pill. At the same time, there were some experts who wanted to continue bidding. Their real target was the 2nd step, 1st Order Origin Life pill. Therefore, no one responded to Yu Haoran's interrogation. In the end, the 3rd step, 9th Order Supreme Transformation pill was sold for 130 lower level 9 spirit veins. After receiving the storage device from Bian Xingrui, Yu Haoran turned his head and motioned for Yunxiang to leave the high platform. After Yunxiang left the high platform, Yu Haoran solemnly took out the sword that had reached the lower level of the Emperor Realm from his storage ring. A complete lower level of the Emperor Realm sword. The cloud-piercing sword has a sleeping weapon spirit. It contains 108 offensive formations and 81 defensive formations. Following Yu Haoran's detailed introduction and the opening of the cloud-piercing sword's seal, the people in the hall and the private rooms all stood up and turned to look at him. Even Bian Xingrui, who was in charge of the auction, had an incomparably shocked expression in his eyes. This was because when they were discussing the auction, although Yu Haoran had mentioned that there would be 4 magic weapons, he and the president had always thought that they would only be supreme-level magic weapons. At most, they would only be supreme-level magic weapons. Chapter 13-17. In the auction hall, Bian Xingrui's heart was filled with regret as he stared at the sword in Yu Haoran's hand. If he'd known earlier that Yu Haoran's 7th item was a low-grade Great Emperor sword, he would have asked for the details of each item when they were discussing the details of the auction at the Prince Consort's residence. In that case, with his deep friendship with Yu Haoran, and out of respect for Yun Xiang, he would definitely be able to get the sword at the lowest price. But it was too late for regrets. Bian Xingrui had no choice but to summon the 2 martial honors in charge of the auction hall. He had them gather the spirit veins and treasures as quickly as possible so that they could participate in the auction. Staring at the sword in Yu Haoran's hand, The Sky Sword Sect Master clenched his fists and trembled as he commanded. 2 Grand Elders, take out everything you've collected. No matter what, we must get the cloud-piercing sword. Yes, Sect Leader. They looked at each other and saw the desire in each other's eyes. Then, one of the martial saint's swordsmen replied excitedly. After resealing the sword, Yuhauran casually inserted the cloud-piercing sword into the high platform, giving everyone time to adapt and prepare. When he felt that the atmosphere was about right, he made a bid that infuriated the Sky Sword Sect leader and stunned everyone. The starting price for the complete Cloud Piercer sword is 1/9 level 1st grade Spirit Stone. The starting price for each auction cannot be lower than 1/9 level 1st grade Spirit Stone. Yuhauran, do you want to make an enemy out of the billions of sword cultivators in the Tianxian continent? The sect master of the Heavenly Sword Sect angrily rushed to the bottom of the stage and glared at Yuhauran as he threatened. Scram immediately. Otherwise, I will cancel the auction for the cloud-piercing sword. Yuhauran coldly threatened the sect master of the Sky Sword Sect who had fled to the bottom of the high platform. Faced with Yuhauran's threat of canceling the auction for the cloud-piercing sword, the Heavenly Sword Sect's sect master was at a loss for words. If Yuhauran really had to cancel the auction for the cloud-piercing sword because of him, he would probably be torn to shreds by the countless frenzied experts present. However, if he did not think of a way to fight back, then Yuhauran's humiliation of the way of the sword would not only severely hurt the young warrior's enthusiasm for the cultivation of the way of the sword, but it would also change many young warriors' choice of martial arts. This result would not only prevent the Earth Sword and Man Sword from gathering more sword luck, it would also affect the Sky Sword Sect's chances of reaching a higher position in the future. Just as the Sky Sword Sect leader didn't know how to respond to Yuhauran's threat, Qin Yu suddenly spoke up. Everyone, please listen to Qin Yu. Please speak your mind. The Sky Sword Sect leader was very grateful that Qin Yu resolved the awkward situation in time. He immediately cooperated with Qin Yu's plan. The reason why Yuhauran has lowered the price of the cloud-piercing sword so low is because he wants to use this method to ruthlessly humiliate the way of the sword and dispel the enthusiasm of the billions of sword cultivators on the profound sky continent towards the way of the sword. At the same time, he knows that the final price will reach an astronomical figure because of the preciousness of a low-grade Emperor-grade sword. This is killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Qin Yu nodded in satisfaction at the tactful cooperation of the Sky Sword Sect leader and continued to suggest. Since that's the case, why don't we have one friend bid a 1st grade 9th level Spirit Stone and win the low-grade Emperor-grade cloud-piercing sword? Young Master Qin Yu, what if Yuhauran still shamelessly arranges for his own people to participate in the auction? The Sky Sword Sect leader reminded kindly when he thought of how Yuhauran had countered Qin Yu's threat. If Yuhauran dares to use such shameless methods, then not only will he fail to humiliate the Sword Dao by auctioning off the Cloud Piercer sword at such a low price, he will also be slapping himself in the face. Qin Yu replied proudly in response to the sect master's kind reminder. Hearing Qin Yu's explanation, everyone nodded in agreement and couldn't help but feel excited. I wonder who is the only person who can make a bid? However, Forefather Zhou, who had been clear-headed and seemed to be targeting the Yushu Temple, asked with a cold smile. Don't tell me it's you, Qin Yu. Forefather Zhou's cold question caused everyone's excitement to plummet. At the same time, they were even more certain that Qin Yu's suggestion was to obtain the low-grade Emperor-grade cloud-piercing sword for himself at the lowest price. Qin Yu's face darkened when Forefather Zhou exposed his sinister intentions. However, he had already considered this point, so he took a deep breath and countered with a smile. Haha, how could Qin Yu have such intentions? Everyone, the Sky Sword Sect has always been a sacred place in the hearts of sword cultivators. Why don't we let the Sky Sword Sect leader be the one to bid? The Skysword Sect Master's face flushed red with excitement when he heard Qing Yu's suggestion. He looked at the number 1 private room with a look of gratitude. What an arrogant idiot! Yu Haoran mocked Qing Yu disdainfully and loudly said to the people in the venue after speaking to him in a loud voice. Everyone, according to the rules of the auction, if no one bids for an item for a long time, then as the owner of the item, you have the right to decide whether to take it back. Perhaps you can directly make a deal with a friend here. It's about time. I will now announce the countdown for the low-grade Emperor-grade cloud-piercing sword. Using the restriction that he couldn't act shamelessly to suppress the final price of the cloud-piercing sword seemed very clever, but it was actually a stupid idea full of flaws. First of all, the Yushu Temple wasn't strong enough to intimidate everyone present into obeying Qing Yu's orders. Secondly, no matter who the sole bidder was, no one else would be convinced. Last but not least, he had underestimated the allure of the Cloud Piercer, a sword with a slumbering artifact spirit to the crowd. It was because of the above 3 reasons that Yu Haoran had remained silent in the face of Qing Yu's scheme to deceive him. Chapter 13:18. In the auction hall. Damn it! Qing Yu cursed with an ashen face when she heard the crowd's laughter and bidding voices. He didn't expect that Yu Haoran would be able to resolve his meticulously planned scheme so easily. On the other hand, the terrestrial venerable who was sitting on the armchair looked at Qing Yu with disappointment. Qing Yu, let Elder Hong be in charge of the plan to kill Yu Haoran. After the auction, go back to the Yushu Temple and prepare for the Hidden Dragon ranking competition in the Central Region and 5 regions. Qing Yu's face turned pale when he heard the earthly venerable's arrangement. Qing Yu knew that he had been completely abandoned by his master. He had lost the chance to compete for the position of earthly venerable. He could only be an ordinary elder in the future. At the same time, he knew his master's character better. He knew that even if he begged, he would not change his master's mind. Originally, she had a bright future ahead of her, but because Yu Haoran had ruined her meticulously prepared plans 3 times in a row, she had lost the hope of fighting for her entire life. This caused Qing Yu to look at Yu Haoran, who was on the high platform, as a crazed look appeared in her eyes. The earthly venerable had no intention of reminding or comforting him. The Yushu Temple was a sect that did not care about friendship. They only cared about whether you were useful or not. The more valuable you were, the more you would be treated. The same applied to the other way around. Even if Qing Yu rushed to the high platform to fight Yu Haoran, the earthly venerable would not stop him or help him. He would only watch from the sidelines. If Qing Yu could kill Yu Haoran successfully, he would reconsider his idea of training Qing Yu. If Qing Feng was killed by Yu Haoran, he would not offend Yu Haoran on the spot and affect the auction plan. Qing Yu knew that Yu Haoran had a protector that even the earthly venerable was afraid of. He did not rush to the high platform. A complete low-grade Emperor's sword was far more valuable than all the other treasures combined. Not only did the price quickly exceed 200 low-grade 9th-level spirit veins, the price didn't seem to be slowing down at all. When the price of the cloud-piercing sword exceeded 100 low-grade 9th-grade spirit veins, Bian Xingrui had no choice but to give up. As he helplessly looked at the cloud-piercing sword, a trace of determination gradually appeared in his eyes. If the heavenly earth commerce could become the number 1 commerce in the Tianxian land, then, if the Chamber of Commerce was able to monopolize all the businesses on the continent, then today's predicament of facing a tempting treasure would not occur again. If he wanted to achieve his goal, the first step was to truly control the power of the Chamber of Commerce. At this moment, the seeds of power struggle began to sprout in Bian Xingrui's heart. When the price of the sword exceeded 300 9th-level spirit veins, the frenzied bidding began to slow down. In the end, the owner of the 5th private room won the rights to the sword with a sky-high price of 348 9th-level spirit veins. Good sword. After completing the transaction, the owner of the fifth private room couldn't help but praise in a loud voice. The owner of the fifth private room couldn't help but praise. This also made those who had lost the sword extremely unwilling to accept it. However, when Yuharan took out the sword that was also a low-grade emperor sword, their unwillingness was immediately replaced by eagerness. Their hearts were immediately filled with fighting spirit. A complete low-grade emperor-level saber weapon with a sleeping weapon spirit. It contains 108 offensive formations and 81 defensive formations. Yuharan undid a small part of the seal on the churning cloud saber, allowing everyone to feel the Emperor Realm weapon's power. He then announced the price of the churning cloud saber. The starting price for the complete cloud flip saber is 109th level low-grade spirit veins. Each bid must not be lower than 5 9th level low-grade spirit veins or 10,000 4th level first-grade spirit stones. The starting price of the sword was 1 9th level first-grade spirit stone, while the starting price of the sword was 109th level low-grade spirit veins. Faced with such a disparity in price, the head of the Sky Sword sect thought he would be furious. He might even go crazy and fight Yuharan to the death. However, as soon as Yuharan announced the bidding price, the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect discovered that his heart was as calm as still water. Not only was he not enraged by the humiliation of the way of the sword once again, he even felt that the way of the sword deserved to be humiliated. In truth, the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect hadn't realized that Yuharan's 2 consecutive humiliations towards the Tao of the sword had already softened his belief in the Tao of the sword that he had always pursued. His thoughts of nurturing the earth sword and the human sword had also loosened a little. At the same time, none of the sword cultivators present realized that as the head of the Sky Sword sect, who symbolized the holy land of the Sword Tao, softened his belief in the Sword Tao, the fate of the Sword Tao in the world was flowing away faster. 209th level low-grade spirit veins. Although there were far fewer sword cultivators in the Tianxian continent who cultivated the Sword Tao, weapons of the Emperor level could basically break free from the restrictions of the martial Tao. Therefore, when Yuharan announced the start of the auction, Forefather Zhou immediately doubled the price to show his determination to obtain the cloud-piercing sword. 209th level low-grade spirit veins. 251 9th level low-grade spirit veins. The price of the cloud-piercing sword did not lose out to the price of the cloud-piercing sword. Very quickly, it broke through the 300 mark and continued to reach a higher price. In the end, it was bought by the Forefather Zhou with a price that exceeded the cloud-piercing sword by 1 9th level low-grade spirit vein. With the end of the auction for the 8th item, the atmosphere suddenly became tense. The experts in the 36 private rooms all stood up and stared at Yuharan, who was standing on the high platform. Faced with the gazes of the crowd, Yuharan took a deep breath. Not only did he not immediately take out the 9th item, he slowly closed his eyes and used his divine sense to communicate with Bian Xingrui. Great Elder, I'm very sorry. I'm afraid I have to break the rules of the auction that you set. The final number of items to be auctioned will reach 10. Originally, according to his initial plan, he did not intend to auction the 3rd level first-grade Supreme Hua Pill. Therefore, he let Thaling use Victor's ability to accelerate time to prepare 2 drops of primordial ginseng liquid in advance. He planned to use the liquid to replace the 3rd level first-grade Supreme Hua Pill as the 4th item to be auctioned. However, when he arrived at Twin Bull Mountain, he realized that most of the experts from the sects and clans who came to participate in the auction were aiming for the 3rd level first-grade Supreme Hua Pill. Chapter 1319. In the auction hall, Bian Xingrui comforted Yuharan with a smile on his face when he heard his apology. Prince Consort, the rule of auctioning the 9 treasures is something that I, Bian Xingrui, adhere to personally. You don't have to follow this rule at all. You can auction as many treasures as you want. Thank you for your understanding, Great Elder. After thanking him, Yuhauran slowly opened his eyes. He then took out an ancient pill bottle from his storage ring. He opened the pill bottle and poured out a pill that gave off an aura of vicissitude. This is a rank 2, rank 1 longevity pill that can extend one's lifespan by 3,000 years. The quasi-martial honorables in the hall, who were proficient in alchemy, immediately identified the origin of the pill in Yuhauran's hand after sensing the aura of vicissitudes from the pill. Although they already knew that one of the 9 treasures that Yuhauran was auctioning was a top pill that could extend one's lifespan, the people who participated in the auction were still suspicious. After all, although there was no lack of pills and treasures that could extend one's lifespan in the Tianxian continent, a rank 2, rank 1 longevity pill that could directly extend one's lifespan by 3,000 years had not appeared for millions of years. Therefore, after seeing Yuhauran take out the life essence pill and hearing the cries of the independent alchemists, the atmosphere became even more silent, and there was even a trace of oppression in the silence. Senior, you are right. The pill in my hand is indeed a rank 2, rank 1 longevity pill that can directly extend one's lifespan by 3,000 years. Yuhauran nodded at the rogue cultivator who had pointed out the origin of the pill and put it back into the pill bottle. He smiled and announced the starting price for the rank 2, rank 1 longevity pill. The starting price for the rank 2, rank 1 longevity pill is 300 lower rank 9 spiritual meridians. The starting price for each auction cannot be less than 10 lower rank 9 spiritual meridians. At the same time, no spiritual stones of any grade will be accepted. The auction for the rank 2, rank 1 longevity pill will now begin. What was different from the previous auctions was that after Yuhauran announced the auction, there was no sound of bidding. Instead, it became even quieter. They could even clearly hear some people's heartbeats. Yuhauran was not in a hurry. He stood on the high platform and waited quietly for the first person to break the silence. 400 lower rank 9 spiritual meridians. Along with the sound of bidding from the 5th private room, the silence was broken in an instant. The price of the second stage first-grade life essence elixir shot up like a rocket, surpassing the limit of ordinary sects and families in the hall. Soon, it broke through the barrier of 600 spiritual veins. However, even after breaking through the 600 spirit veins mark, the rising price only slowed down a little. It still continued to set auction records with the price of 10 to 20 spirit veins. 800 lower rank 9 spiritual meridians. When the price reached 750 spiritual meridians, the earthly venerable in room number 1. He suddenly increased the price by 50 spiritual meridians. After shocking everyone present, he pushed open the door of the room and appeared in the corridor on the 2nd floor. The rank 2, rank 1 longevity pill is something that the Yushu Temple must obtain. I now swear on behalf of the Celestial Venerable and the Human Venerable that if any top sects or families with thousands of years of history continue to compete with me for the longevity pill, it will be an official declaration of war against the Yushu Temple. After this, I will personally lead countless experts of the Yushu Temple to kill every person, beast, flower, and grass in their faction. After hearing the earthly venerable master's murderous vow, the experts in the private rooms swallowed back the price they were about to offer. Then, they looked at the earthly venerable standing in the corridor with gloomy faces. They had never thought that the earthly venerable would fight to the death to bid for the rank 2, rank 1 longevity pill. Even Zhou family's patriarch, who was not afraid of the Yushu Temple, had to remain silent. After all, the sleeping ancestors of the Zhou family had not truly awakened. It was not suitable for them to have a large-scale conflict with the Yushu Temple for the time being. Yuhauran's face also darkened as he looked at the arrogant earthly venerable standing in the corridor. Although he had already guessed that the earthly venerable would resort to all sorts of underhanded means to obtain the life essence pill, He had not expected the earthly venerable to use the method of declaring war to force everyone present to give up the bidding for the life essence pill. His original estimate of the longevity pill's price exceeding 1,000 spiritual meridians had to be reduced to 800 lower rank 9 spiritual meridians. Although he was angry, Yuhauran had no way to deal with the earthly venerable's declaration of war and swearing an oath. Now, he could only hope that the old monsters hiding in the void above the auction would not be able to resist the fatal attraction of the longevity pill and would choose to participate in the auction in the end. Unfortunately, after waiting for nearly 3 minutes, the old monsters hiding in the void did not make a move. Yuhauran had no choice but to start the countdown for the longevity pill's auction. 800 lower rank 9 spiritual meridians, going once. After 30 seconds, the scene was still silent. Yuhauran continued to count down. 800 lower rank 9 spiritual meridians, going twice. After waiting for nearly a minute, no one broke the deadlock created by the earthly venerable at the crucial moment. Yuhauran could only shake his head in disappointment and announce the final owner of the longevity pill. 800 lower rank 9 spiritual meridians, going thrice. I now announce that the level 2, grade 1 longevity pill will be sold to the Yushu Temple's earthly venerable at the price of 800 lower rank 9 spiritual meridians. Seeing that Yuhauran did not use any tricks to disrupt the announcement of the final owner of the longevity pill, the earthly venerable, who was ready to shed all pretense of cordiality, and the 2 martial venerables in the private room were completely stunned. They did not expect that Yuhauran, who was never willing to suffer losses, would finally succumb to the threat of the earthly venerable's declaration of war and swearing an oath. Earthly venerable, spiritual meridians. Yuhauran reminded the earthly venerable with a cold expression as he used the method of wrapping spiritual meridians to wrap the bottle with spiritual meridians and send it to him. The earthly venerable immediately sorted out the 800 lower rank 9 spiritual meridians and sent them to Yuhauran using the same method. Then, both of them put away their storage devices and bottles at the same time. Seeing that Yuhauran and the earthly venerable had successfully completed the transaction, the people in the hall and the experts in the private room could not help but sigh. Then, they stood up and planned to leave the auction venue. Cough. However, at this moment, they suddenly heard Yuhauran's soft cough, which was condensed using spiritual meridians. Chapter 1320. In the Auction Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the rules of the top auction of the Heavenly World Chamber of Commerce, there are only 9 treasures to be auctioned this time. Seeing that everyone's attention had returned to him, Yuhauran, who had readjusted his emotions, explained with a smile. However, I accidentally obtained a treasure some time ago. It's a treasure that can greatly increase a martial artist's cultivation and strength. However, I don't want to rely on external forces to increase my cultivation and strength, and I can't resist the strong temptation of this treasure for a long time. Therefore, after much consideration, I've finally decided to take out this treasure for auction. This way, I can obtain a large amount of spiritual meridians that can help my cultivation and eliminate the impact of this treasure on my soul. After hearing Yuhauran's explanation, some of the experts at the scene suddenly remembered a rumor that had suddenly spread in the Right Ox City before the auction officially began. According to the rumor, Yuhauran would auction a kind of elixir at this auction. It was a kind of elixir that could help martial artists at the peak of Emperor Wu realm and Quasi-Emperor realm to break through to the Emperor Wu realm. Of course, they scoffed at the authenticity of this rumor, because they simply didn't believe that there was anyone in this world who could resist and give up on the elixir that could help them break through to the Emperor Wu realm. However, from Yuhauran's explanation, they vaguely felt that the rumor seemed to be true. The treasure that this ambitious young man in front of them was taking out to auction was very likely the legendary elixir. At this moment, the calm void above the auction hall suddenly began to churn. Accompanied by the churning of the dark clouds in the void, a gloomy-looking skinny old man walked out from the dark clouds. Then, he raised his head and looked at the dark clouds that gradually calmed down. The skinny old man slowly closed his eyes. 3 seconds later, the skinny old man suddenly opened his eyes and shot out 2 rays of white light. The 2 rays of white light were like void pythons that shot to different positions in the void. "Old Shao, what are you doing?" As the white light shot out from his left eye accurately hit the dark clouds in the void on the left, an angry voice immediately rang out. A white-haired, white-robed, benevolent-looking old man walked out of the dark clouds in the sky. At the same time, a black-haired, black-clothed, gloomy old man walked out of the dark clouds that had been hit by the white light. "Brother Tsang, Brother Lu, the last item that the young man is going to auction is very likely to be a second-stage first-grade Emperor Yuan pill that can aid in Emperor Wu's breakthrough." Ignoring the white-haired old man's accusation, the skinny old man said solemnly. "Therefore, in order to ensure that we can obtain the Supreme Essence pill in the end, the 3 of us must work together to fight against those opponents whose strength and wealth far surpass ours. Brother Shao, forming an alliance is not a problem. The problem is who will get the Emperor Yuan pill after we successfully obtain it," the white-haired, white-robed elder asked with a benevolent smile on his face as he strode through the air toward the skinny, small elder. "Brother Tsang, among the 3 of us, Brother Lu is the strongest and most talented. He's also the one with the most hope of breaking through to Emperor Wu's almighty realm with the help of the Emperor Yuan pill." The skinny old man answered the question of who would get the Supreme Essence pill in the end without any selfish motives. As long as Brother Lu can successfully break through to Emperor Wu's almighty realm with the help of the Supreme Essence pill, he will have the strength to bring us into the depths of the Death Swamp and fight for the second-stage first-grade Emperor Yuan flower with the natives of the Forbidden Land. Taking a deep breath, the skinny old man continued with an agitated expression. "Brother Tsang, as long as we can obtain a petal of the second-stage first-grade Emperor Yuan flower, you and I can also break through to Emperor Wu's almighty realm and become invincible almighties." The skinny old man's consideration of the big picture and his arrangements for their future cultivation moved the white-haired, white-robed old man, who immediately nodded in agreement to his suggestion. As for the black-haired, black-robed old man, his eyes revealed a hint of emotion as he nodded at the skinny old man. After that, the 3 of them rushed down to the auction venue. Just as the skinny old man and the other 2 left the void, a white-haired old man in a star robe appeared in the void. Looking at the skinny old man and the other 2 rushing toward the auction venue, the star-robed old man's eyes flashed with a hint of disdain. His entire body transformed into a star core the size of a fist and smashed into the auction venue. However, when it was less than 3 meters away from the auction venue, the star core transformed back into the star-robed old man and quickly rushed into the auction venue. Just as the old man in starry robes charged into the auction venue, 1 or 2 other old men would appear from time to time in the air. They would either charge into the auction venue without saying a word, or they would make their way into the auction venue after muttering a few mocking words to themselves. "Prince Consort, may I know what the treasure you are talking about is?" Relying on the friendly relationship between the clan leader and Zhou Fengshu with Yu Haoran, Zhou clan's patriarch took the initiative to ask. Yu Haoran raised his head and glanced at the top of the auction hall. He withdrew his gaze and took out a pill bottle from his storage ring. After opening it, he poured out the pills inside the pill bottle and introduced them to everyone present. "That is the rank 2, rank 1 Emperor Yuan pill that can help Emperor Wu break through to the almighty realm." Looking at the pill in Yu Haoran's hand that emitted traces of Emperor's aura and hearing his detailed introduction, everyone present couldn't help but gasp and look at Yu Haoran in a daze. Although they had already guessed that the 10th auction item was likely to be the pill with heaven-defying effects, when Yu Haoran really took it out, everyone present found it hard to accept the reality in a short time. Just when everyone present was in a daze, the skinny old man and the other two people who had rushed into the auction venue in an instant also happened to see the pill in Yuhauran's hand. The skinny old man, who was slightly proficient in the art of alchemy, immediately confirmed with excitement. That's right, it really is the rank 2, rank 1 Emperor Yuan pill. Seeing the three old men suddenly rush into the auction venue, Yuhauran smiled slightly and put the pill back into the pill bottle. Then, he shook his head at Bian Xingrui, who was about to scold them, indicating that he didn't need to pay too much attention to them. At the same time, Thaling used the power of his victor body to instantly see through the cultivation of the three people. Yuhauran, the skinny old man and the white-haired old man have just broken through to the third tribulation quasi-Emperor Wu realm. The black-clothed old man with a cold temperament is a third tribulation quasi-emperor. After hearing Thaling's introduction, Yuhauran silently nodded. However, when he saw the white-haired old man with a kind smile on his face and a trace of frightening coldness in his eyes, he immediately warned Thaling. Thaling, immediately take the Emperor Yuan pill from the pill bottle. Got it. Chapter 13:21. In the auction hall. Young man, name your price. The skinny old man and his two companions rushed into the auction hall. They did not sit on the seats in the hall, nor did they rush into the private rooms on the second floor. Instead, they floated in front of Yuhauran. The black-haired old man in black ordered in a frosty voice when he saw Yuhauran put the level 2, grade 1 Emperor Yuan pill back into the pill bottle. Seniors! In the face of the black-haired, black-clothed old man's frosty command, Yuhauran did not get angry at all. The level 2, grade 1 Emperor Yuan pill is the finale item of this auction. All the distinguished guests who enter the auction have a chance to obtain the Emperor Yuan pill, provided that you beat the other competitors in terms of price. Therefore, the three of you can choose to sit in the hall or choose a private room and compete for the Emperor Yuan pill after the official auction. The black-haired old man in black was annoyed by Yuhauran's explanation and reminder. He wanted to snatch the pill away by force, but the skinny old man beside him pulled him back and reminded him through divine telekinesis. Elder Xing Hai is here. After hearing the skinny old man's reminder, the black-haired old man immediately suppressed the displeasure in his heart and turned his head to look at the 36 private rooms on the second floor. The black-haired old man in black immediately looked at the earthly venerable in room number 1 and saw him take out a silver-white token. His expression changed when he saw a white-haired old man and a fair child in room number 2. He immediately used his divine telekinesis to look at room number 3. Although the Zhou clan, which had been passed down since the Middle Ages, was very powerful, the old monsters who had been living in seclusion for thousands or even tens of thousands of years were invincible as long as Emperor Wu could not awaken for the time being. Therefore, the black-haired old man in black chose room number 3, but the skinny old man shook his head and rejected him. He chose room number 11 directly. Apart from Elder Xing Hai, there will be a few more opponents that we can't deal with for the time being. Therefore, we can only choose to be patient for the time being. The white-haired old man in white robes and the black-haired old man in black nodded after hearing the skinny old man's explanation. They then followed him to room number 3. Right at this moment, the old man in a star robe charged into the auction hall as well. Turning his head to look at Elder Xing Hai, the three of them did not greet him, nor did they show any hostility. They only retracted their gazes and kicked open the door of the private room. Scram! The black-haired and black-clothed old man sternly reprimanded the 2 elders and 3 disciples of the Miao family. As the descendants of the Miao family, the 3 of them had been regarded highly since they were young. When had they ever been reprimanded like this? One of them, a monstrous genius whose body and soul power had broken through to the martial saint realm, angrily stood up and threatened. "Do you know who we are? Either get lost or die." The black-haired and black-clothed old man ignored the threat of the Miao family disciples and stepped into the private room. He looked coldly at the two martial revered elders and threatened them with a frosty voice. "Senior, please don't be angry. We'll leave now." Although the black-haired and black-clothed old man did not emit any aura, the two martial honorable elders could feel a fatal threat. They quickly stood up and cupped their hands in greeting. After that, the two martial honorable elders immediately brought the three unconvinced elite disciples out of private room number 11. Xinghai Elder, who was floating in the air of the venue, knew what was going on after seeing the choices of the skinny old man and the other two. He turned his head and looked at the entrance of the venue. Xinghai Elder rushed to the front of room 9. Either get lost or die. Elder Xinghai gave the same choice as the black-haired and black-clothed old man when he faced the martial honorable expert in private room number 11. The owner of private room number 9, who had also sensed Elder Xinghai's terrifying strength, immediately brought the family's elite disciples to give up the ownership of the private room. In the following period of time, another 4 waves of 7 terrifying experts appeared in the auction hall. Like the skinny old man and Elder Xinghai, they chose private rooms number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10 respectively. After the green-robed old man who chose private room number 5 entered the private room, a full 3 minutes had passed, but not a single terrifying expert appeared. Yu Haoran could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Then, just as he was about to announce the starting price of the Emperor Essence Pill, he suddenly heard a strange laughter. Gia. Accompanied by the strange laughter, Yu Haoran suddenly felt his palm lighten. When he came back to his senses, he realized that the pill bottle in his hand had disappeared. Old man in a flowery robe, leave the Emperor Essence Pill behind. Yu Haoran only realized after the pill bottle had been snatched away because his cultivation was too low, his strength was too weak, and Thaling did not have time to remind him. However, to the 11 terrifying experts in the private room, they immediately rushed out of the private room to chase after the pill bottle had been snatched away. Seniors, there's no need to chase. Just as the skinny old man and the other 11 terrifying experts chased to the exit of the auction hall, Yu Haoran, who had come back to his senses, immediately reminded them loudly. Stopping their pursuit, the skinny old man and the others turned to look at Yu Haoran. They did not understand why he stopped them from chasing after the flower-robed old man who had snatched away the Emperor Essence Pill. Facing the gaze of the skinny old man and the others, Yu Haoran placed his hands behind his back and exuded a strong sense of confidence. Since the ancient era of alchemy was founded, no one has been able to snatch away the pill that belonged to a top alchemist, whether it was personally refined or obtained by accident. At this point, Yu Haoran withdrew his left hand from behind his back. Suddenly, a pill emitting traces of Emperor's might appeared in his left palm. That's right. It's the second stage first-grade Emperor Essence Pill in the pill bottle just now. The familiar smell and Emperor's might made the skinny old man heave a sigh of relief. At the same time, he nodded, confirming that this pill was indeed the one that had been snatched away by the flower-robed old man. To be able to retrieve the stolen Emperor Essence Pill from the hands of a Third Tribulation Quasi-Emperor Emperor Wu, the 11 Third Tribulation Quasi-Emperor Emperor Wu realm experts looked at Yu Haoran with a hint of fear in their eyes. After retrieving the Emperor Essence Pill, Yu Haoran suggested with a smile, "Seniors, please return to your private rooms for the time being. I will now announce the starting bid for the second stage first-grade Emperor Essence Pill." Nodding, the skinny old man and the other 11 terrifying experts returned to their private rooms. However, just as they were about to step into their private rooms, they heard the flower-robed old man's exasperated voice. "Damn brat, how dare you trick me? See if I don't swallow you alive." Accompanied by the exasperated threat, a white-haired old man in a colorful robe instantly appeared in the auction hall. He was half handsome and half ugly. Chapter 1322. In the Auction House. Ha ha! Facing Yuhauran's tough counterattack, the old man in the flowery robe could not help but laugh strangely. A sinister smile appeared on his ugly and strange face as he provoked Yuhauran. Brat, come. Let this old man see how easily you can take my life. In the face of the old man's contemptuous provocation, Yuhauran chuckled and said to everyone present, Seniors, my alchemy skills have already reached the peak of the alchemy grandmaster realm. I only need to refine a special elixir to successfully advance to the alchemy emperor realm. This special elixir is called the embryonic emperor elixir. It is both a luck elixir and a probability elixir. After that, Yuhauran introduced the effects of the embryonic emperor elixir in detail, as well as his strong confidence in refining the embryonic emperor elixir. He was about to become an alchemy emperor. After hearing Yuhauran's strong confidence in advancing his alchemy skills, both the old man in the flowery robe floating in the air and the experts in the private room were shocked. However, what made them even more surprised was the embryonic emperor elixir that Yuhauran had just mentioned, because in their knowledge of alchemy, they had never heard of such a strange elixir. Ignoring the shock of everyone present, Yuhauran continued to speak with his hands cupped. Seniors, if you believe that you have strong luck, or if you are willing to bet on your luck, then you can choose to fight one-on-one or besiege the old man in the flowery robe. As long as you can successfully kill the old man in the flowery robe, I will give each of you an embryonic emperor elixir. In the face of Yuhauran's offer, although the skinny old man and the other experts were tempted, they did not seem to be confident in their luck. Otherwise, why had they not broken through to the Emperor Wu realm after thousands of years of cultivation? Therefore, no one present responded to the request just now. Ha ha! The scene of no response made the old man in the flowery robe even more proud of himself. I believe all of you have heard of Yuhauran's alchemy skills. Yuhauran was not disappointed at all as he continued to speak. Junior will continue to promise that as long as Senior kills the flower-robed old man, Junior will help him refine a pill for free in addition to giving him an embryonic emperor pill. Little friend, are you serious? Hearing Yuhauran's second promise, the old man from room 9 immediately asked. Senior, this Junior never speaks nonsense. Yuhauran vowed solemnly. Little friend, if your alchemy cultivation base breaks through to the alchemy emperor, are you sure you can refine the first-grade star source congealing spirit pill of the second grade? After getting Yuhauran's guarantee, Star Sea Old Man continued to ask. Without immediately replying to Elder Xing Hai's question, Yuhauran suddenly fell into deep thought. Alas! Seeing Yuhauran in deep thought, Star Sea Old Man thought that he couldn't refine the star source congealing spirit pill either, and he couldn't help sighing. Star source congealing spirit pill, with the star core of the star source in the endless void as the main medicine, then it is integrated with 36 kinds of third-grade 9 spiritual medicine that can absorb the power of the stars. It is a kind of medicinal pill that can forcibly absorb the power of the laws of stars into the body. Hearing the disappointed sigh from the 9th private room, Yuhauran took a deep breath, first introduced the role of the star source congealing spirit pill in detail, then he cupped his fist and said to the 9th private room, Senior, it's not that Junior can't refine the first-grade star source congealing spirit pill of the second grade, I'm just considering what kind of state to refine it in. Little friend, what do you mean? Yuhauran's familiarity with the star source congealing pill made Star Sea Old Man excited again, but Yuhauran's explanation just now made him puzzled. Senior, in fact, with Junior's current alchemy cultivation base, I can refine the first-grade star source congealing spirit pill of the second grade, but the success rate is only 10%. Putting down his cupped hands, Yuhauran explained proudly. If Junior's alchemy cultivation base can be promoted to the alchemy emperor, then the success rate of refining the star source congealing spirit pill will be as high as 50%. Although the grade of the star source congealing spirit pill was as high as the first grade of the second grade, with his own familiarity with the power of stars, the explanation just now was not false. Moreover, with the help of the first clone whose alchemy cultivation base had also reached the peak of the Grand Master, the success rate of refining the star source congealing spirit pill with his current alchemy ability was actually close to 20%. He deliberately lowered it by 10% just because he didn't want to refine it now. Little friend, is this true? Star Sea Old Man asked with great excitement. If Senior doesn't believe it, Junior swears by the rules of heaven. Yu Haoran raised his left hand and gestured. Little friend, I believe you. As Star Sea Old Man chose to believe, a fist-sized star core appeared in front of Yu Haoran, and Star Sea Old Man, who instantly returned to his original body, said to the old man in a flowery robe. Flowery robe, either choose a private room yourself and compete for the Emperor Yuan pill with your own financial resources, or let's see who's the real deal. Facing Star Sea Old Man's intervention, the old man in a flowery robe asked with a sinister smile. Xinghai, can you do it? Flowery robe, although I am not your opponent, I can definitely severely injure you at the cost of overdrawing hundreds of years of my lifespan. Facing the contempt of the old man in a flowery robe, Star Sea Old Man said indifferently. I don't know if you can escape the pursuit of soul-chasing and life-severing after being severely injured. The threat of Star Sea Old Man made the old man in a flowery robe's face change, but Yu Haoran's next words directly made the old man in a flowery robe turn around and go straight to the third private room. Senior Star Sea, don't worry. Since Junior is willing to take out a Stage 2, Stage 1 life essence pill for auction, then I have enough confidence to refine an identical Stage 2, Stage 1 life essence pill after advancing to the Alchemy Emperor realm. It's enough to make up for the hundreds of years of your lifespan that you've overdrawn. Thank you for your help, Senior Star Sea. Yu Haoran hurriedly thanked Star Sea Old Man when he saw the old man in a flowery robe go straight to the third private room. Little friend, what's the agreement between you and me? Star Sea Old Man asked nervously after waving his hand to indicate that Yu Haoran did not have to be polite. After the Southern Region Hidden Dragon Rankings competition is over, Junior will directly open the furnace to refine the Stage 3, Stage 1 Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, the Stage 2, Stage 1 Emperor Yuan Pill, and the Star Source Congealing Spirit Pill in the Hidden Dragon Fortress, Yu Haoran replied with a smile. Little friend, Xinghai will go to the Hidden Dragon Fortress to watch the Hidden Dragon Rankings competition this time. Star Sea Old Man, who had let out a long sigh of relief, said with a smile. Then, he went straight to the 9th private room. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.